They lose last night 4-2. Logan Webb, decent game for him last night. The pitching has been okay, and we get young Mason Black today. A good pitching matchup if you're on your way out today. We've got the Hello Kitty hat today, which Sandra G is wearing. You'll see her on the patio here if you're coming out to watch a little bit of our show. But for Logan Webb last night, 7 innings, 8 hits, 3 runs, only 2 earned. He did a really good job last night. He was very critical after the game last night, talking about the way the team is playing, and they are struggling. And right now the Giants sit 4th place in the National League West at 17-23. So we've gone a quarter of the season, 40 games, and they are 17-23. So as I like to say at this time of year, just hang in there. There are going to be 2 open wild card spots, the way I see it, and the Giants are one of about 8 teams in contention for one of those 2 wild card spots. So it's all going to happen over the summer, and that's what baseball is all about. It is May, Mother's Day weekend here at the ballpark. We're going to have a lot of interesting little comments from the players on Mother's Day. We've got a wonderful interview coming up with Alyssa Nakken that Sandra G did. Carmen Q is going to join us as well. So we've got a lot of baseball to talk about. But where I was going with Mason Black today, he gets the start for the Giants. And he got the first start against the Phillies last week. And he was great for 4 innings. He was terrific. And then he sort of wore down, and Bryce Harper hit the big 3-run homer off him. And then they gave up another run, and that was it for Mason Black at that point. He ended up with the loss, but really had pitched well for him, for anybody in a Major League debut to go into Citizens Bank Park and pitch against the Phillies. He handled it pretty well for 4 innings. So he gets the ball today. And he is back in this rotation with Keaton Winn getting knocked around a little bit. If Mason Black does something well today, and Blake Snell is coming back, trust me, there will be a Blake Snell sighting at this ballpark at some point. He will play. He'll be back in this rotation. If Mason Black has a decent game today, he could knock Keaton Winn out of the rotation. That can actually happen, so we'll see. On the Red side today, it's Nick Lodolo, and this is a name, fans, that we don't know much about here on the West Coast. He is obviously a member of the Cincinnati Reds. He's 26 years old. He's 3-1 on the year. He's a lefty with a 279 earned run average. The whip is 0.93, so it's tough to get on base against him. But for Nick Lodolo, he's really pitched well. He's been hurt a lot the last year, missed most of the year. He's been in 5 games for the Reds this year, and he's a lefty. And boy, wait till you hear the lineup today. And Sandra, you can sit down and let's get you back in here. We're doing a lot of filming today on the Marty Lurie documentary, so nice to have Randy Field here and Michael and Charlie doing their job here today. And if you're on the live stream, you can see a lot of them in the background today. All right, so Nick Lodolo gets the ball today. Lefties 1 for 14 against him. Righties 18 for 89 with a couple of homers. So he's a tough cookie. He is, but the Giants have made some moves today, and Sandra G joins us. Sandra, nice to have you with us today. And first of all, let's talk about the moves that the Giants made today, because people are interested. We knew one was going to be Patrick Bailey, but others are involved in this.
Yeah, so Brett Wisely got recalled from AAA Sacramento today, and Austin Slater has been placed on the 7-day concussion IL. So if you were watching the game last night, he had a kind of a bumpy road into that chain link fence out there in center field. So he's on the IL. We're wishing the best for Austin Slater. Bailey has been reinstated. So on the other side of the IL protocol, Bailey is back, and Jackson Reitz has also been optioned to AAA Sacramento. So a couple of moves here on Saturday morning before the Giants get ready to play their 4:15.
It's good to have Patrick Bailey back. Let's face it. When you play the Cincinnati Reds, this is a team that does not score a lot of runs. They are last in the National League when you look at offense. Right now, as I look at it, if you're on the live stream, you can see me looking at my notes right now. They hit .212 as a team with a .291 on base. 357 slugging. Now the Giants are not the 27 Yankees either. They're hitting .240 with a 306 on base, which is not enough, and only a 369 slugging. But for the Reds, they run, and they run like crazy. And the guy who does the running is Ellie De La Cruz. And he has stolen multiple bases, 3 games in a row. You start doing this again, now you're in the territory of Vince Coleman. Randy Field, one of my cameramen here, he knows Vince Coleman quite well. And Ricky Henderson. When you get into that range of stolen bases, that's who you're dealing with. And the Reds need Ellie De La Cruz. And Mason Black's job today is to keep this guy off the bases. The Reds have 66 stolen bases. The Giants have 13, 66 in a quarter of a season. You can do the math. It's close to 300.
Yeah, well, Ellie De La Cruz, I think he's got 25 or 26 of those just himself. So that's an incredible number, and he's, obviously going to get more as the season rolls on. We're only a quarter of the way through.
Yeah, he's got 25 now, as you point out, and he had 2 last night, and he's got 6 in 3 games. So it's important to get Patrick Bailey back in the game. You need him because they ran wild all week long on Jackson Reitz and Blake Sable. So you need Bailey back in the game, and he is back in there today. So that is good news for the Giants. But when it comes to De La Cruz, my feeling almost let the guy ahead of him get on. Because if there's nobody on and he gets a single or gets a walk, you might as well put him on third base at that point. And that's the way the Reds score runs. And they were desperate last night to get that 4th run. It's a big deal. As I said, when the Giants allow 4 or more, they're 2-22. And they did get that 4th run in a crazy fashion last night. If you haven't seen it, absolutely go on MLB and take a look at the ball that Fairchild hit to center field. Now, don't forget there was no Jung-Hoo Lee last night. He's got the bad foot. And Sandra, is Jung-Hoo Lee in there today?
He's not. He's still dealing with that contusion on his foot, so he's getting some rest. Let's go through the lineup really quick. So we've got leading off today at second base, we've got Estrada at first, Wade Jr. Bailey is behind the dish. We've got Flores as the DH, followed by Ramos in right field. Chapman's at third, Conforto in left. Schmidt is our starting shortstop. In center field will be Tyler Fitzgerald.
Yeah, so last night they ended up with Fitzgerald in center field and Conforto in left. Fairchild hit a ball that probably they thought they could catch. They didn't. It hit off the wall, bounced away, and Fairchild ended up with an inside-the-park home run.
Fairchild was one of those guys that was involved in that big trade with the Mariners.
Everybody was.
Yeah, a couple of seasons ago, so he is technically a former Giant.
All right, so let's get an update on Patrick Bailey. Carmen is in the clubhouse and has texted me, and Carmen will be back with us in a little while. But she says Brett Wisely is here. Sounds like they've been playing him everywhere, maybe sometime at third, center, etc. So with Fitzgerald and Wisely, you've got that. You've got Casey Schmidt here now to play short. You may want to shift Estrada over there at some point. Wisely can play second. But he's hit the ball well at Sacramento, so that he deserves to be up here. Patrick Bailey is here too, obviously. He's had 3 or 4 concussions, so he's trying to be careful. He's changing to the hockey-style mask. And they said a lot of nice things about the fact that he was not wearing the hockey-style mask, and they thought that would help him, but he's changing to that. He's wearing a collar that's supposed to help. It's new tech stuff that they used in football and special forces. One of his buddies who also had concussions told him about it in the off season. He's only worn it before in high school. So Carmen, thank you for sending those texts in from the clubhouse. That's
Inside Scoop live from the clubhouse.
All right.
Q.
Let's talk I want you to do the lineup again because I want to comment on it a little bit. This is a little bit of a different lineup today for the Giants against the left-handed Nick Lodolo. Go ahead.
Yeah, second base is Tyro Estrada. First base, Wade Jr. Catching, Patrick Bailey. DH is Wilmer Flores.
Wow.
Right field, Heliot Ramos. Third base, Matt Chapman. Left field, Michael Conforto. Shortstop, Casey Schmidt. And center field, Tyler Fitzgerald.
Wow. All right. That's the lineup today for the Giants. They've got a lot of people out of the lineup, and Soler is one of them. He is on the disabled list as well with the bad shoulder. But the guy I want to mention for everybody is Heliot Ramos. And he got a couple of hits last night. He looks locked in.
He does.
I must tell you, he looks a little bit better than we've seen him and the different trials he's had up here. I'm glad that Ramos is here. I'm glad he's getting a shot. You know, in baseball, sometimes timing is everything. And with Slater going on the concussion list, he's the right-handed complement to Yastrzemski. Ramos is going to get that job. And this is going to take probably a week to 10 days for Slater, I would imagine. This is Ramos's chance here, and they're going to see some lefties. They're going to see some lefties with the Dodgers, and Ramos has a shot here. He's a big deal for me this weekend.
Yeah, one thing that I really can compliment about Heliot Ramos is he is so fast around the bases that speed is definitely going to be nice to have for the Giants moving forward through this series and then coming up with the Dodgers.
Well, he runs very quickly because they're going to try to send him to Sacramento. He's trying to get out of the way. And that's why he's running as fast as he can. All right. I'm glad to have him here. He looks locked in. He looks locked in. All right. We're here at 58 Social. It's great to have you with us. It's nice. It's a beautiful day for a ball game today. Just a gorgeous day if you're coming out. It's a 4:15 start. You're going to love it. The Hello Kitty hat is being given away. Sandra G is wearing it. If you're going to come out here, David, a great job of setting everything up. We're on the live stream as well. You can see us. And we're going to take a break, and Sandra's going to come back and talk with Alyssa Nakken. This is Mother's Day weekend, and Alyssa's back, and she's got a lot of really nice things to say. So we'll come back right here. Sandra G, Alyssa Nakken, right here, KNBR 680, 104.5, the sports leader. Everyone likes a party, but everyone loves a party at Original Joe's. With 3 private dining rooms, it's the perfect spot to hold your next big event. From christenings to corporate gatherings, we'll make your next party San Francisco special. Original Joe's, see you at the counter.
All right, it's Dave Fleming. I just want to say happy Mother's Day to every Giants mom out there, particularly my wife, Jess, who is having a heck of a year. Our twins are getting ready to go off to college. We got high school graduation. We got 8th grade graduation. It's a busy time for mom, so I'm thinking about you. Happy Mother's Day.
Thanks a lot, Dave.
Yeah.
Hi, Giants fans. You're listening to KNBR 680 and 104.5. This is the San Francisco Giants pregame show, and I am Sandra G. And I'm so excited to welcome back to our show the Giants' resident trailblazer, Alyssa Nakken. Alyssa, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Well, there's a whole bunch that's been going on in your world since we caught up last, so I'm excited to get the listeners the inside scoop on how you've been. But first, we're sitting here, and it's a beautiful sunny afternoon here. We're in the dugout at Oracle Park, and let's give the listeners and Giants fans who maybe don't know your backstory some insight on how you got here to the Giants dugout here in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah. It started as an intern in 2014. So it feels like so long ago, but I was in baseball operations, and then over the last decade just worked myself up and was on the business side for a while. And then at the end of 2019, after Bochy retired, Gabe Kapler was hired and was looking to hire very diverse staff. Interviewed for the assistant coach position on his staff, got it, and worked quite hard these last 4 seasons, and Bob Melvin, new manager, asked me to stay on the staff. So that's kind of like a very shortened version of how I got here, but I played softball growing up, and my first step into baseball was at the University of San Francisco, working with their baseball team while I was going to grad school. So then an internship popped up with the Giants organization, and that's how it started.
So for our little younger Giants crowd that's listening here, any girls out there, but how did you get involved in baseball? Who introduced you into baseball? Did you play baseball, softball growing up, and where?
I grew up in Woodland, California, so not too far from San Francisco, and I was raised by 2 Giants fans. I was 3 weeks old when I came to my first Giants game, so it's in my blood. My mom actually just gave me the same little Giants cheerleader outfit that I wore to me so that my daughter can wear it. I think I was a bigger baby because it's just not fit her just yet, and she's 3 months, so... so both my parents are very active, and my mom was the youngest of 3 with 2 older brothers. I'm the youngest of 3 with 2 older brothers.
Wow.
So I feel like I've kind of lived very similarly to how she lived, which was try to get big and strong to fight back against your brothers, and also try to keep up with them in everything that they're doing. My brothers were active. They played sports, there's the year-round sports, and I was, really excited. Softball was actually very competitive in the town that I grew up in, so I never played baseball. I do know that it's, a lot of young girls like to play baseball because the softball programs might not be as established, might not be as competitive. It is a different game, but I really liked softball. I really had no interest in going on to play baseball, but my best friend, who's still my best friend today, she played baseball in the local Little League, and she's the only girl that played. She was a catcher, and I remember her being the best. So I always was like, that was really cool. Like you played, she didn't go on and pursue baseball past, age 10, but I'll never forget her being the only one and just holding her own with the boys, which was really cool. I married, a baseball coach. My husband has coached baseball for well over a decade. And so it was nice to kind of share those passions. But I wanted to go to the University of San Francisco because I knew about the coaches for the baseball team there, and just what they do for young people. And I wanted to be around that type of culture. I knew I was done playing. I had no interest in playing softball or anything anymore, but I did have the itch to get back into competition and that sort of thing. So they were really great. They allowed me to come in and watch practice, and then eventually they hired me to help them out. But yeah, I think baseball's been in my blood since probably before I was born. Because of how active and sports fanatic my parents are.
Well, it's safe to say that you are definitely a homegrown talent then here in San Francisco, being a Giants fan, born and raised, and now sitting here at Oracle Park. It's a really fantastic story. So we're going to talk about now, because I know you are super involved with the Junior Giants program, something that's near and dear to all of our hearts here in San Francisco. Talk to us about your involvement with the Junior Giants program and your role now as commissioner of the Junior Giants.
Yes, I'm very grateful to, this is my second season as the Junior Giants commissioner, and I just really think it's important for young people to play sports, give it a try, maybe not have, dreams and desires to get to the big leagues or to college or anything, but I think you can learn so much through playing sports. You learn a lot of life lessons, and in baseball and softball, I feel like a lot of the skills that you learn are so transferable to life. You've got people from all different backgrounds on your team, so you're learning how they live and what they do and how they prepare to play, and you come from different backgrounds, but you all come together for one goal, and that's to have fun at that level, but also you want to win the game. So it's been fun to work with the Giants Community Fund and the Junior Giants folks, and I think we're trying to get more women in the game, and the Junior Giants softball program is growing and growing. So I'm really just interested in learning from the Community Fund and the Junior Giants folks, and how much more I can support and just get more involvement, more financial support, and all the glove drives and that sort of thing. But also just get more kiddos out playing baseball. I mean, especially on days like this, where else would you want to be?
That's right. And so if you're just tuning in, this is Sandra G here. You're listening to Talking Baseball on KNBR 680 and 104.5, the San Francisco Giants pregame show. I'm here with Alyssa Nakken, and we're just talking about her involvement with the Junior Giants program. If you're interested in learning more, you can head over to gojrgiants.org. Registration opened up a couple weeks ago, and they're looking for players all over Northern California, Oregon, and Nevada. So, Alyssa, I want to know, from your days playing sports and playing softball, what would you say is maybe the top two things that you learned as a young athlete?
Learned that preparation is so important. I think, the higher you get in sports, the more intense it can become. There's a lot of layers that come into it, but if you've prepared, you're ready. And so I think that's what's helped me stay calm in some of these really intense moments that I faced as an athlete, but also now as a coach. When you prepare, you're ready. So even if your team is getting to the championship game or something, I really don't think there's any reason to change. I think that the best players show up in those games, but you've prepared to play that game, and so you rely on that and have faith in that. So that's something I remind myself daily, not just in sports either. And then the second thing is being a good teammate. I think that's something I can really hang my hat on. I feel like I've been a really good teammate in a lot of aspects of my life. I loved being there for my teammates, and I took on some captain leadership roles as I got older, but I just loved being somebody that I really felt like I could help every single person on the team with whatever it was.
All right, great to have Alyssa Nakken with us on a very special weekend. Sandra, nice job with that, and there's more to come with Alyssa.
Yeah, she's fantastic, and she's the first mom to ever step foot on a Major League Baseball field, so I thought that was perfect to talk to her.
I like it, absolutely. All right, very good. Maria Guardado joins us, as we love to have her out here live at the patio at 58 Social. Maria, of course, covers the Giants for MLB.com. Maria, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Marty?
Very good. How was the road trip for you?
I was only in Philly, so, those were some tough games for the team. But, yeah, it was really tough just as far as, the pitching wasn't going well for them. The offense wasn't going well for them. There were a lot of injuries, so it was a really trying time for the team. And, that's kind of been the case all season. They haven't really found their stride yet, so hopefully they can start to turn it around, now that they're back at home.
Now, when we had Evan Webeck on from Philly, he did a very good menu for us of the cheesesteak. Are you a cheesesteak person?
It's funny. I actually had a cheesesteak in Philly for the first time in a while. I went to Reading Terminal Market. I got one, and it was good. But yeah, afterwards I kind of regretted it. So, it's the one, it's one of those things where you can have it, maybe a couple times when you go, but I wouldn't recommend having one like every day.
All right. Let's talk Giants baseball here. They did make some moves today. Let's talk about the moves and how it impacts the team.
Yeah, I mean, so, Patrick Bailey's back off the concussion IL, which is big for them, obviously. And, as a corresponding move, Jackson Reitz was optioned back down to AAA. And then in a separate move, Austin Slater, unfortunately, did hit the concussion IL. And Brett Wisely is up for the first time. So, Wisely is someone who had been swinging the bat pretty well at AAA Sacramento. So, maybe he can help bring some spark to this offense that has really been struggling to kind of score runs consistently. So we'll see what he can do. He's not in there today against the lefty, but, I would expect him to get some playing time. Probably either middle infield, or he can play center as well. So he's someone that could get some playing time here while some of these other guys are out.
Sandra, just let me ask this one. I commented earlier about Ramos, that he looks locked in. He looks a little bit better. With Slater being hurt now, Ramos is going to get a lot of playing time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think he's going to be able to slide into that role of, starting against lefties, hopefully being able to bring some of that right-handed pop that they've kind of been missing. Because, when you look at the lineup, I mean, I feel like some of their lefty bats have been doing pretty well. Michael Conforto, obviously Lamont Jr., but, they really haven't gotten a ton out of their right-handed bats. Jorge Soler was struggling, then he's on the injured list. Matt Chapman's really been struggling. Wilmer Flores hasn't really gotten going yet. So they really need kind of the right-handed hitters to start to step it up. And, Elliot Ramos looked really good yesterday. I think he went 2 for 3. Had a couple of really hard hit balls, and he was really doing well in AAA. So I know that he's been waiting a long time to kind of finally get this opportunity to break into the majors and stay here. So, he'll have an opportunity to show what he can do, especially today against another lefty. So I think that, that would be really big if they can get some sort of spark from somewhere. He's definitely one of the guys who can do that if you can kind of keep that going.
Yeah, Maria, do you think that we're going to be seeing the lineup kind of shifting around a little bit more? At the beginning of the season, it looked like it was almost the same every day. You knew what to expect. In the last couple days, last week or so, the lineups kind of changed around, and obviously there's been some injuries. But what can you kind of read into the lineup changing and the moves that have been making with kind of the lineup spots?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Giants fans were kind of, really craved kind of lineup stability after, a lot of the platoon-based, lineups that we saw under Gabe Kapler, and they got that at the beginning of the year. I mean, Bob Melvin was kind of riding with the same guys on most days. But yeah, now that there's been injuries to obviously Nick Ahmed, Jorge Soler, Tom Murphy, I think there are going to be opportunities for them to kind of mix in some fresh blood a little bit. So, that's where you're seeing, Elliot Ramos, Casey Schmidt's now up, Brett Wisely's now up. So I think some of those younger guys are going to be sprinkled into the mix a lot more. And, like I said, hopefully this offense really needs some sort of spark from somewhere. So hopefully they'll be able to bring that. But overall, they just need to do a better job of scoring consistently, because I think they've been averaging less than 3 runs over their last 15 games, which is the second lowest mark in the majors. So they really need to be able to support their pitching, because that's what they're trying to build their whole brand around.
This is an important game for Mason Black today. As I said earlier in the show, with Keaton Wynn getting knocked around a couple of times. Look, the starting pitching is the strength of this team. There's no doubt about it. It is not performing really right now the way they should, but Blake Snell is coming back. And with Mason Black having a decent game today, and who knows what's going to happen with the Reds and Ellie De La Cruz and all that stuff, but he could supplant Keaton Wynn in the rotation.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, he's obviously a really talented guy. I think that he probably pitched a little better than his line showed in his debut. He did a pretty good job with that Phillies lineup the first 4 innings, and then, they kind of tried to push him, just because their bullpen was so depleted, and he ended up kind of struggling the 3rd time through the order. But, yeah, I mean, he's someone who was absolutely dominant at AAA. It really has kind of a fastball slider mix, and it was really exciting for him, to be able to debut in his home state last time around. So we'll see how he does in his home debut. He's obviously someone who has the potential to kind of be a big piece of this rotation. And I think with Keaton, he was sick, last time in Philly, and then so.
And the rain, remember, and all that.
Yeah, and the rain. So it's been a little bit of a tough stretch for him. But I think that he still also obviously has a lot of really interesting tools. But we'll see how Blake Snell does in his rehab start with San Jose on Sunday. Obviously the Giants kind of signed him to be that co-ace with Logan Webb, so they really need to get him going at some point. And obviously the weird ramp up that he had after signing late didn't help things. But hopefully once he gets healthy and is able to kind of get into back a little bit of a more normal rhythm, he'll also obviously get back to shoving on the mound, because like I said, they need that.
How do you like this Ellie Dela Cruz?
He's exciting. He's a really cool, exciting talent. Obviously, he has that speed and power mix that's so intriguing. So he's fun to watch for sure. I think that he was expected to be kind of a core piece for that Cincinnati team. So it's interesting to get to look a close look at him and just the athleticism that he brings on the field. It's pretty impressive.
Baseball's a funny game, and we're on the live stream, and Greg Dayton is saying it's over. It's over. There's no way. 76 and 86. I love the live stream because people get to give their opinions. It's fine. That's what baseball's all about. It's a talking sport. But it is relatively early. It's 40 games. One winning streak, all of a sudden things look different. How do you explain this in the work you do when you do your game stories to not get totally negative and say, hey, the season's over. Come on, they've 40 games. Might as well, there's 122 more to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long season, so you always kind of don't want to, push the panic button too early. That said, I think the Giants know that they do have to kind of start playing with a little bit more urgency because it is kind of easy to get buried, if they can't turn it around quickly, especially with the Dodgers coming into town next week. So I think they do realize that they kind of, while they've been slow out the gates, they really do need to start picking it up, or else, it's going to be a really tough, uphill battle to kind of get it back in there. But, I think with the third wild card now, I feel like there's still, there's opportunities to kind of stay in the race, even if you don't get off to the best start. And there are some teams around the National League that also have been kind of underperforming. So I think they're still, it's May, there's still plenty of time to turn it around, but I think that the sooner that they do it, the better chances they have of, staying competitive for the rest of the year.
What do you think about not bringing Luciano up? Now, Ahmed is on the DL, and Schmidt came up yesterday.
Yeah.
And look, they turned a double play yesterday with Chapman to Schmidt. It was just one of the nicest I think I've ever seen. And look, Schmidt's a great glove. Can he hit? We'll see. He'll be with us today. But Luciano seemed like this was maybe his moment, but they bypassed him for Schmidt.
Yeah, I think it's probably not the best sign that their top prospect hasn't been able to kind of get these opportunities when there has been injuries. I mean, he was someone who the Giants had hoped would seize that shortstop job out of spring training, and he couldn't. Nick Ahmed ended up being him out for that, and then even now, when he's been passed over essentially twice now that there's been these two injuries, so he just hasn't been kind of lighting up the world down in AAA. He has been doing decently, but I think he only has like one home run, so. He's a guy who, we know that, the bat is really what's going to get him to the big leagues. So if he's not kind of producing at the if he's not head and shoulders above everyone else at AAA, then I don't think he's going to get the call yet. So it's a little concerning that he's not here, given the state of the team. But honestly, the same can be said for Luis Matos. I mean, he's someone who was on an absolute tear in spring training, and he just hasn't been able to carry that over to Sacramento for whatever reason. So, yeah, I don't think it's a great sign for the Giants that they're, those two guys who are expected to be really big pieces for them are kind of struggling and aren't here right now.
Well, the team has got a lot of injuries. Soler has not performed when he's been okay. Chapman really has struggled at the plate. And the thing about it is they come up with runners on base all the time, and that's the biggest failure.
Yeah, the thing with Soler has been the most kind of head-scratching one, because when you look at him, he had like 5 home runs before the injury, right? It seems like he wasn't doing terribly, but he just wasn't driving in runs when he would come up. There were so many times where he came up with the bases loaded, and they just couldn't break the games open, and they just really haven't been able to gotten those big hits and done enough damage in those situations. So it feels a little fluky. It feels like he's going to have to turn it around at some point, because he has a track record of producing in the majors, and we all know how much power he has. So
yeah, they need it.
So hopefully this shoulder thing isn't too serious, and he'll be able to get back and then start kind of breaking, because that's what he's been paid to do.
All right, we'll see what happens. Maria, always a pleasure. Love having you on. Thank you.
Maria.
Thanks for having me on, Marty.
All right, that's Maria Guardado, MLB.com. She covers the Giants, and that's where. Look, they're 17 and 23, and they've got. You just don't want to get buried, and that's the big deal. You want to stay close. And go ahead. Carmen says no. Okay. All right. Carmen Q is coming up next with Mark Simon. More coming up from the patio here. 58 Social. Right here. It's a beautiful day for baseball. Good game coming up tonight. Nick Lodolo and Mason Black. Good lefty. Lodolo, he's pretty tough. And Mason Black gets his second major league start. All right. More coming up right here on the Sports Leader.
Thanks, Maria.
got the
Experience the epitome of luxury and craftsmanship with Inicio Windows and Doors, another exciting product line from BMD Manufacturing. Inicio Windows and Doors sets the standard in ultra-premium European design. Wow. For the most demanding American building standards. Available both in steel and aluminum, they are meticulously engineered to elevate your living space to new heights of sophistication. Learn more about Inicio Windows and Doors today. Discover the perfect blend of European beauty and style with unwavering durability and strength. Visit InicioWindows.com. INICIO Windows.com. Inicio Windows and Doors, where European design meets American craftsmanship.
Mark Simon. Mark, I love you, man.
All right, great to have you back with us as we get ready for Giants baseball today. It's the best introduction in the history of radio. The Diaz trumpets, along with Jerry Seinfeld saying, "No!" Okay. But it is Mark Simon. Mark A. Simon says on Twitter, Mark Simon of Sports Info Solutions. Mark, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, we're doing well. We're live out here at the ballpark. It's a beautiful day in San Francisco. And we've got a decent pitching matchup, at least an interesting one. Two teams that don't score a lot of runs, believe me, and we saw it last night. One of the rare things last night, I'm going to throw this one at you. When was the last time you saw an inside-the-park home run? Do you remember?
I feel like I've seen one or two of those a year. You see them on Quick Pitch.
Right.
But like watching a game, yeah, that's fair. A couple of years probably. I wasn't surprised as soon as the ball hit the wall. I was like, so Sports Info Solutions actually tracks this. I can't tell you who's like best or worst at it because I don't have it in front of me. But we track what we call failure to anticipate the wall, where like you collide with the fence and the ball is like not close to you and the ball comes back and you have to chase it. So that is something that we track for teams. That was an instance of it last night that didn't go particularly well.
Boy, very good. That's a good. I had no idea that you could do that, but you're right. If you get too close to the wall. See, last night the ball did bounce away, but I thought they had a shot to catch it. And you know,
a little bit.
Yeah, but for me, the last inside the park home run I saw was, I guess, Angel Pagan. And we're sitting at Carmen and Sandra's G sitting here. Remember that, guys?
Oh yeah, that I think all time that's got to be the greatest for a walk-off inside the park home run at home. Unfortunately, we lost Pagan for a couple weeks after that because of the hamstring, but that was just one of the most exciting that I can ever remember.
I just remember the iconic photo of his hair just sticking straight up. It was like a freeze frame. Very dramatic, honestly.
Yeah, and Flan chasing him to home plate.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Flan had some energy there.
It was exciting.
The Flannery line.
Hey, come on. The Reds have trouble scoring runs, Mark, and the third base coach is J.R. House. He was waving him the whole way.
Yeah, and as it turned out, rightfully so. I thought it was a good send. As I said, when the ball hit the fence, I was like, that's gonna be problematic, significantly problematic, and it was.
Yeah, that was the 13th inside the park home run in Oracle Park history and the 6th by an opponent. So we still got a little bit more than half.
Didn't Ichiro hit one, Mark, in the All-Star game?
Oh.
Yes, yeah, he did.
Remember, off right field?
Is that 2001 or 3?
That was a while ago. Yeah, I remember that one. All right, enough of that. All right, the pitching matchup. We've got two good young pitchers today, Nick Lodolo, the lefty, and Mason Black, who had his first game, of course, unfortunately, against the Phillies. How do you see this one today?
All right, let me start with Lodolo because it's kind of a warning to hitters. He hits a lot of guys, so you got to be careful, and he's very good when he goes inside, so you just kind of got to be ready for it and braced for it. He's had some very good starts this year. It was 2 starts ago against the Padres. I think he had 1 hit in 7 innings. Really good breaking ball, slider, curve, whatever you want to call it. That was impressive. Fastball moves a lot, which I guess is what you would expect out of someone that hits a lot of guys. So I would be a little wary of that for him. Mason Black just needs to avoid the middle of the plate. He got clocked every time he was in the middle of the plate. His first start. Phillies went 6 for 9 when he was in the middle of the plate. They couldn't hit anything inside or outside. But middle of the plate was trouble. Slider needs to throw more of those for strikes. He was less than half strikes with his slider in his first start. There were good moments, but there were some shaky ones too.
Okay, all right. How about Lodolo? And I love some of these numbers. Lefties 1 for 14 against them. Righties 18 for 89. That's no picnic either. But the one with runners in scoring position, and you don't get many, at least 6 for 20. And with 2 out, 4 for 11. So maybe he gets a little bit nervous with guys on the bases.
Yep, maybe. But he's pretty good. He was very good 2 years ago in particular.
Now, the Reds run like crazy. Ellie De La Cruz is in the Vince Coleman, Ricky Henderson territory with multiple steals in multiple games. But you look at Lodolo, 7 stolen bases, 2 caught stealing. Maybe the Giants can run on Lodolo.
Yeah, but like the thing with the Giants always seems to be like, are they gonna have guys run? Because nobody runs on this team. Matt Chapman has 3 stolen bases. Like that's that's a high number for them. Tyler Fitzgerald has 4. This team isn't built for that. Like they're just not. Chapman's a very good athlete, but he's not someone who's gonna steal you 25. And Jung Boo hasn't shown the ability to steal bases yet either.
All right, let's talk Giants a little bit offensively. And I did talk about the Reds today hitting 212 as a team last in the National League. The Giants offensively, and people listening to us, they're watching us on the live stream and making comments about the Giants offense. Is there anything good about the Giants offense? Is there anything that's really bad about the Giants offense? Because they've just if they score 4 runs, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, I hate to say it. Like they're kind of boring right now. I don't find them particularly, like, they're middle of the pack. They're not terrible, but they're not necessarily particularly good either. 11th in runs scored. What are they doing well? And this I had to dig for something for today for Dave and John. They're good when they lead off an inning. They're good at starting rallies. They're just not good at finishing them. Oh, no! Exactly. And like that's what they're good at. What they've struggled with is really like everything else, and in particular, like you don't feel like really enthusiastic that they're going to be able to dig themselves out of 2-0 down or 3-1 down. When they're trailing in games this year, they're hitting like close to 200, and you're never going to be able to survive if you're hitting close to 200 when you're trailing. And they don't hit home runs in big spots. Like they got to find ways to get on the board, like and in an impactful way, score 2 or 3 at a time, and they're not. If you look at, we call it like high leverage at bats. The Giants this year have had 250 plate appearances that are high leverage, like really where the game could swing either way. And they have 2 home runs. Like Soler was supposed to solve that. Chapman was supposed to solve that. Mike Yastrzemski's supposed to hit a few. Conforto has hit a few, but they haven't necessarily been in those spots. They're not hitting home runs in important moments.
Okay. Boy, you sounded like Seinfeld there. When you said 2 home runs, it sounded like...
It's like... So it's a little just I'm a neutral party in this, but it's not particularly exciting to watch because when they fall behind, it feels like they're chasing the game, and they're not a New York Rangers when it comes to chasing a game, and they have a hard time coming back.
All right, no, I'm with you on that, and that's the issue. And obviously, we watch all the games. It is getting the offense going and getting the starting pitching back on a very consistent level. It's been decent, but not quite without Snell. It has not been what we thought. So we'll see where we go today. But you're right. Mason Black, when he works the corners, very tough. Lodolo is tough all over the place. I like the fact that you said he hits people. That's the Charlie Morton story. If Charlie Morton hits you, he's having a good game. And he throws inside. He's pitched 2,000 innings in the big leagues. All right, I digress. All right. Injuries. The Soler injury was a tough one. I always say, look at the guy's prior history to see, how he's going to do health-wise in the future. Is there any way to predict this? Because they've got half the Sacramento team up here now.
So you're not going to like this. I didn't like it when I saw it. But we have an injury predictor tool, and the injury predictor tool bases it on a lot of things. Past history is really important. Age is really important. Body type is really important. Activity on the field is important. Are you someone that dives, slides, jumps, all those different things? The position player right now who is most likely to need an injured list stint this season is Wilmer Flores.
I don't like that.
Exactly. I didn't think you would. And in looking at pitchers, so Aroldis Chapman is the number 1 pitcher, and high velocity is certainly a big part of this, as I'm foreshadowing here. The number 5 pitcher on the most likely to get injured list from Sports Info Solutions is Jordan Hicks.
Well, all right. This is not good news.
No, this has not been an optimistic phone call.
No. All right. Well, look, it's 40 games in, and I said this to Maria Guardado when she was here. How do you explain to people? We have people who, bellyache all the time. I make a speech here and there, and the first thing, the season's over, this can't turn around. How do you explain to people it's not hockey, it's not the Rangers, it's not the Knicks. It's not pro football with one loss and you're out of a playoff. baseball goes 6 months. It takes 162 games. How do you explain that to people when your team is disappointing so far? How do you do that?
It's very difficult because I think disappointment kind of trumps anything else that you could bring up. And it does look a little bleak for the Giants, but the playoff probability right now is 19%. 19% isn't nothing. You see probably a team that's in the 19 to 20% range make the playoffs. It seems like you see one of those a year the way that things are going. There are not with the way that baseball is right now. 40 games is not that much, and there are always that sixth spot is always going to be in play for you unless you start like the Marlins 10-30. If you're close to 500, if you're nibbling around 500, that sixth spot's going to be there for you in August and September if you can get on one good run where you win 18 of 25 or something like that. And the thing is, I don't know that the Giants have 18 of 25 in them. I don't know that the Cardinals have 18 of 25 in them. I think the Mets could have 18 of 25 in them. I think the Padres, the Diamondbacks could have 18 of 25 in them. But I'm not necessarily sold on the idea that the Giants could.
Well, let's see if Robbie Ray and Blake Snell and Alex Cobb make a difference, and that's what you hope for. Just don't get buried now. As I always say, you can't win a pennant in May. You could sure lose one, so you don't want to go 12 under or something like that. So that's the issue for me. And I think you answered the question really well. Mark Simon with us. It is a big day in baseball today. Paul Skeens, S-K-E-N-E-S. He was the first pick in the draft last year out of LSU. They say he's another Steven Strasburg. He's another Clemens, so to speak. He's up today. He pitches for the Pirates today. In just a little while, they get underway. And if you look at the rotation, the Giants are going to get him. When the Giants go to Pittsburgh, I think his third start will be against the Giants. So give me something on Paul Skeens, because I'm sure people will be interested in him.
I think that he's somewhat of a known commodity, but they don't know if he's capable of going deep into a game at the professional level because the AAA team, for the most part, has restricted his innings. He's averaging like 4 innings per start. So I'm curious to see if he can maintain what he's done so far over 8 to 10 starts. And he's this elite prospect. He's one of the top prospects in the game. It does remind me of Strasburg. But I should also point out that there's another really good one pitching today, Christian Scott for the Mets against the Braves. That will start at the same time. He looked great in his first start. But Skeen certainly deserves the headlines. He's a great college pitcher. And it does remind me of Strasburg.
Well, we'll see what happens today. The Giants are going to get him, I think, if they hold their rotation in that 3-game series when they go Pittsburgh in about 10 days. Mark, great to have you on with us, and enjoy the weekend. And well, you got your Rangers going okay. They're fine. How about the Knicks? The Knicks had a tough loss last night.
They did, but I would say that they really embody the no-quit New York kind of mentality that the Rangers and the Knicks have shown this season. They've been Jalen Brunson has become an all-world type of player.
Feel any better about the Mets?
I still think the Mets are an 85-win team. They're a game under 500 right now. They'll get Senga back. As I said, they've got this guy Scott, who's been very good, and Pete Alonso has nowhere to go but up.
No chance. How about that? No chance. No. Sorry. Hey, Mark, always a pleasure. We'll catch up with you in a couple of weeks. Have a good weekend.
You got it. See ya.
All right, that is Mark Simon, Sports Info Solutions. Have a lot of fun with him. All right, Bruce Jenkins next, coming up live right here at 58 Social. Nice to see everybody out here today. Good to see everyone. We have a great staff. Polite opera clap, please. Very good. Thank you so much. All right, come on, Charlie. Let's hear something. All right, very good. And we've got Chris Mavo here, and Jill Lee is here, and all our regulars, and, of course, Carmen, Sandra G., Randy, and Michael as well. All right, we're live on the stream, too. You can see it at KNBR, at YouTube, KNBR Livestream. You can see it there. All right. More coming up. Bruce Jenkins next, right here in the Sports Leader. How are you today? Fans, I want to welcome Rick Robin Construction to the family this year, and Rick is an expert in home construction, remodeling of kitchen and baths in Napa and Sonoma. And Rick, what really impressed me getting to know you, the way you approach your business. Now, let's say I'm a guy who says, I want my kitchen remodeled. What do you do?
Well, the first thing you do is you'll call, you'll speak to Tammy, I'll make an appointment. Say we're going to do a kitchen. We'll decide what kind of kitchen you want. And if you like the estimate, I'll come back out, take detailed measurements, and then I'll take you down to our 30,000 square foot showroom and meet our designer. So you'll pick out all your cabinets, stone, your sinks, faucets, your flooring. Once all the material's in the warehouse, we'll pick it up, deliver it, start construction.
Well, I love it. Beginning to end, Rick Robin Construction takes care of it. Rick, it's a great way to do business. Fans, if you want to get in touch with Rick, it's Rick Robin, RICKROBBEN, ConstructionNapa.com. Rick, how about a phone number if folks want to call you?
Yeah, call us at 707-332-7575, 7 days a week.
Rick Robin Construction in Napa.
Hey Giants fans, you're listening to KNBR 680 and 104.5. This is the San Francisco Giants pregame show. I'm Sandra G, and I'm joined here by Dusty Baker. Thanks for taking some time, Dusty.
Well, no problem. I just want to wish all the mothers a happy Mother's Day on Sunday. I mean, my mother passed 3 years ago, and I took some flowers to her grave before I came over from Sacramento, because I know how much she liked flowers, and I raise roses. So, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers.
Would you like to share anything that you learned from your mom, the most important thing you learned from her?
Yeah, how to cook and how to sew and how to be self-sustaining and clean as a man.
Thanks so much, Desi. Happy Mother's Day.
Okay.
All right, great to have you back with us as we get ready for baseball today. It's Nick Lodolo and Mason Black. Bruce Jenkins joins us. Bruce, how are you on this Saturday?
Doing well, Marty. Thanks.
Yeah, boy, I'll tell you, the Reds, they live up to their billing. They don't score a lot, but, man, they run. And as soon as the big guy, Dela Cruz, gets on, you just sit back and just say, which pitch is it going to be?
Well, it was really a pleasure to watch him last night because you hear about this, and if you're not that familiar with him, you're wondering, is it really worth all that commotion? And it definitely is. I mean, stealing second base is almost automatic for him, and third base is getting to be that way too, especially with the Giants don't have Bailey in there. I mean, he was just feasting, so... And they didn't need a whole lot more, although they're all about speed, right? And then they win the game they help win the game with an inside the park homer. So, yeah, not a great night for the Giants. The Reds, they'd lost 8 in a row. They needed something to happen, and they came to the right place, I guess.
Well, what do you tell people? Look, we've been through baseball for so many years, and the question comes up all the time. I guess the Giants are underachieving, disappointing. Coming out of spring training, we thought the rotation would be so solid, and you had a major leaguer at every position. It's just not happening right now. But of course, you've only played 40 games, and one winning streak of 7 in a row, where you win 9 out of 12, and all of a sudden the world looks different.
Well, yeah, 40 games is not a trifle. I mean, it's enough to give you some idea what you have. But I agree with you. I think they have too many players who have done stuff in the past, and if they were all to put it together, it could be really fun to watch. I mean, I will always get a kick out of watching Chapman play third and lead, whatever he may do, and Hicks has been great, and they made some nice changes, and it hasn't worked out. Ramos got a couple hits last night, finally looked good in a big league setting. So there are things that, for me, make the team a compelling watch. But, the results are just dreadfully dull right now, and that does have to change. And I don't know how I don't know how they get out of it. I mean, they don't have, they don't have trade options really, and they just. I'll tell you what, Marty, I was delighted to see Casey Schmidt back last night. I'd like to see him take over the shortstop job for this season and the rest of 10 years. I'm serious. If given that he's plays up to his potential, he's a tremendous guy. The fans loved him almost instantly last year. He's got power. He's got a rocket arm. He's got energy and charisma. And if he can put it together, that would be just a terrific thing for the team.
Yeah, and speaking of a guy kind of in Casey Schmidt's class, Patrick Bailey is back, and he just came off the concussion IL. Saw him in the clubhouse earlier. He's talking about switching to the hockey-style mask, and then he also mentioned this collar that he's wearing that he heard from another buddy who had concussions as a catcher. He said it's something that a lot of people wear in the armed forces, playing football. Have you seen this around the league, and what are you seeing in concussions in the league in general?
Well, I mean, I'm not really getting around the league in my retirement. I mean, I covered the game. I covered the game.
Half Moon Bay,
I feel
right?
like you're always on it, even if you're not,
Let me tell you how it looks from Montero out on the coast here. No, I do know that there's a lot of discussion among catchers in today's game about concussions because a lot of guys are dealing with it. It's not like football, but then again, in baseball, behind the plate, whatever mask you have on, you're susceptible. The idea that he's back, it makes me nervous. I'd rather see him take another week off. Not that they can afford that, maybe, but I mean, you just can't fool around with this stuff. But he's looking for the most safe and sophisticated mask he can find, and that tells you something because he just cannot afford to get clocked like that many more times.
Bruce, hey, it's Sandra G, by the way. I'm wondering if, with the speed of pitches in and how fast guys are throwing now. Do you think that's something that we're going to see more often for catchers behind the plate? And do you think there's any changes that might be made to kind of counteract the speed of pitches when they're fouling off and getting them right back to their masks?
Well, I don't think there's any harnessing the rage over velocity. That's almost entirely how kids and minor leaguers and big leaguers are judged, and it's not right. But there aren't enough Randy Jones and Greg Maddoxes out there who get people out on finesse and intelligence and timing without having to throw their arm out like crazy. But the velocity is king right now. I don't see that getting reeled back. In terms of with the catchers, I mean, a foul ball straight back off your mask off any fastball is dire. I mean, it might hit you a little bit harder if the ball's coming in at 102 instead of 96 for sure. These things are all factors, but there's nothing you can tell pitchers about this.
Boy, interesting stuff. The game is changing, and with the velocity, and we get one today. And this Paul Skeens. Well, look, we're baseball fans. He pitches for the Pirates. He was the #1 pick at LSU. He's compared to Strasburg, and through 40 innings in the minor leagues and struck out 90. That kind of stuff. And he does go today for the Pirates, so we get to see him. And I think, Bruce, the Giants get him on the next road trip. I think he'll get a start against the Giants.
I'm looking at him right now on my set. The game just started in Pittsburgh. It's a forecast of rain, but they're underway. Skeens has retired the first 2 hitters he's ever faced in the bigs, and he's looking at Bellinger right now. And it's exciting to watch him. I mean, his average fastball is 100. So I mean, this guy is throwing, some say consistently harder than anyone we've seen in the big leagues, which is very subjective. But I don't care what the numbers say. I mean, and he just walked Bellinger, so there's your play-by-play. But his stuff is electric. He's walking off the mound. I'll tell you everything he's doing. Oh, he's tying his shoe right now.
Well, Bruce, is he throwing to Joey Bart, or who's catching for the Pirates today?
Yeah, but that's a good question. I haven't seen the Pirates lineup flash because I don't have the sound up, and they haven't put the graphic up until they hit. I'm pretty sure looking at him that's Grandal and not Bart. Bart, I mean, first of all, you want a little more of a veteran than Bart, for this kid's first season. And Bart, it was kind of a replay of his Giants experience when he came out of the gate and hitting some rockets, and man, this guy can really hit. Well, Bart did hit a couple of homers like right off the bat, but he's 4 for 31 since then and is playing sparingly, so I'm pretty sure he's not catching today.
Well, it's a time for young players, I'll tell you that. And I'll go back to the Giants just a little bit, Bruce. Looking at the lineup, Estrada's leading off. Wade's hitting second. This against the lefty Lodolo, who's pretty good. Bailey hits third today. Flores fourth. Ramos fifth. Chapman sixth. Conforto seventh. Schmidt eighth. And Fitzgerald ninth. It almost looks like one of those lineups you pulled out of a hat.
Yeah, Billy Martin did that one time. He literally put him in a hat, and he had the craziest thing you ever seen. But you'll do anything to shake things up, right?
Hey, Bruce, what do you think about Wade Jr. right now? He's got an 11-game on-base streak, and he's been really seeing the ball well. What are your thoughts on Wade Jr.?
I love the on-base percentage. Is he leading the bigs in on-base percentage?
I think he's like number 2.
He's right up there.
Yeah, 1 or 2.
And just, his batting eye has really become his trademark. I mean, he's not going to homer in the 9th inning every game, to turn a loss into a win. But he's getting on. He's getting hit. I love the way he ran out a pop fly last night. He ran full speed. Next thing you know, it's not caught, and he's on second. Just things like that. He sets a really good tone for the team, especially in tough times.
How'd you like the double play last night, the Chapman-Schmidt double play?
Well, that was De La Cruz, and
yep.
it took an arm like De La Cruz, which Casey Schmidt has an arm in that league. It's a total rocket, and Chapman's play was just magnificent. Everything about the Chapman end of it was great, and then Schmidt uncorks, and it was beautiful.
It is a time for young players, and I will say this, Bruce. You say this about Schmidt. Chapman, of course, is playing third, and we'll see what happens when Ahmed comes back. They'd probably have to deal with that. But Ramos is up here, and, Slater unfortunately got hurt last night. This is Ramos's moment, I think. This is it for him. And if he stays locked in, he could get that right-handed job.
Yeah, that was a huge game for him last night. I mean, you think, you give kids a little rope, but he's had several chances up here. He's never looked good at the plate. But right off the bat, he hits a shot, hit 2 shots. First 2 at-bats, he really stung the ball. He struck out the last 2 times, but, at least he got off the ground to where people think, okay, this guy has some pop in his bat. So it's huge for him, and he needs to keep that up. You don't want to see him go, 0 for 7 and strike out a lot, because that'll get him back in the doldrums, and it's rushed and it's a little hasty, but that's kind of where he's at right now.
Well, he's going to get the job. I mean, let's face it, Yastrzemski does platoon, and if Ramos hits, he will get that right-handed right field job. So this is a big moment for him, and I think it's a moment for Schmidt. As much as you like him, at some point he'll be with us later on the show. It was almost exactly a year ago when he got called up last time. He's got to hit, Bruce, because the glove plays for me. He's got to hit, though.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I mean, and he was hitting when he first came up. I mean, they had people in the stands. They're looking for his jersey. Yeah. He was a cult figure almost instantly, and he looked so bad at the plate as his average plummeted last year. The low and away pitch just completely baffled him, and maybe he's got it back, and that's something that you can correct. A little more patience. Yeah. He's got a lot of power. He hit a ball deep last night. He hit a ball hard. So yeah, of course he has to hit, and we don't know that, but he has a history of certainly being a much better hitter than he showed last year.
And the other guy who's up here is Wisely. Now he started hitting the ball really well at Sacramento. And Fitzgerald has got that job right now, the utility infield, the center field job. Wisely probably is in contention for that one. That's one for Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald has, he's got a game. He's got speed. He brings something to the table. He hasn't really shown it. Wisely can take that job away from him.
Yeah, I think he can. I think they got to give Fitzgerald a few more starts in a row.
Yeah.
Because when you start bouncing him in and out, then if he's not playing too well, that can really perpetuate itself. But Fitzgerald's had some troubles in the field, at short and in the outfield at times, and that's not a good sign. When he strikes out sometimes on the away pitches, he really doesn't look very good. He looks like he's a little bit lost, but then he'll hit a rope, or his speed will come into play. He can steal a base and make a great play. So, yeah, Wisely, he's kind of looming in the background right now. I'd be surprised if they throw him in there real soon.
So a lot going on with the Giants, and as you and I always say, you don't want to get buried. You don't want to get 10 or 12 under. Just hang in there and get the pitching straight, and I think things can turn around for them. But they're going to have to hit at some point. They're going to have to do that. Interesting week of baseball. A couple of things. One, did you see that Willie Adames, he called his shot for a game-winning home run, or at least a home run that put the Brewers, they were down 5-3, and the fans were on him in the on-deck circle, and he said, I'm going to hit it out. I'm going to, and he did. He went out and hit a 3-run homer and came around the base and pointed at everybody. It was a good baseball moment.
I'm glad you say that, because I saw the highlight. I didn't have the sound up. He's like wildly gesturing, like, geez, what's this all about? But he's the kind of kid who'll do that. He's really bold. It was a great pickup when they got him. I was hoping the Giants would somehow get him in the off season, because he's got flair. He can play short, big power, and he likes big moments. He's a real blessing for them. And the Brewers are, as always, good. They threw a pitcher out there, Robert Gasser, last night, made his debut, and he goes 6 shutout innings against the Cardinals.
Boy, it's funny. Pat Murphy, the manager of the Brewers, said, Gasser should have been up last year, but they purposely kept him down. They said, he's not ready yet, and he came over in the trade with the Padres.
Hader.
Yeah, the one that sent Hader to the Padres from the Brewers, and he's a left-hander, and they brought him up in 6 shutout innings last night. How about that?
Yeah, he really did look good. He was International League Pitcher of the Year in AAA last year. So I mean, he was obviously looking ready. But they know what they're doing. Hopefully, you never know the way pitchers get hurt these days out of nowhere. But yeah, anytime a left-hander comes out of your system and does something like that, it's huge. They lost Burns, and their pitching hasn't looked quite the same, but then they get this guy all of a sudden, and his name is Gasser. Watch out for him around the chili.
Only Bruce Jenkins could say that. That's a good one. All right. Articles this week. Ken Rosenthal wrote one about the A's and Mason Miller. And now this is a guy who's been fabulous. He's a story of baseball, throws 100 miles an hour, warming up, and he still does it in a game. And they said, trade him. The A's should get rid of him right now. And a lot of people, sort of agreed with that. I agree with it because he's had arm trouble. If you could move him to the Orioles and get one of their young players back, if I'm the A's, I do it. What do you think?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, usually, when you trade somebody, you're looking for prospects. Well, they've got the guy right now. They've got the guy that anyone would want to get. I mean, they could trade him for prospects who all turn into a bust, and Miller's still around 6 years from now striking people out. So it's not an automatic for now. I mean, if they want to just reduce their attendance from 8 to 4 people, go ahead and trade him. But he's a reason to watch the club. Nobody's watching him, I give you that, but they watch him everywhere but Oakland. And I don't know. It seems crazy to me. I mean, what's really the point? I mean, the A's aren't going anywhere except friggin' Sacramento. So I mean, no. I say preserve the fun and see what you got with this kid.
Yeah, we'll see what they're going to do with him. The other one is Chris Sale, who's come back for Atlanta. All of a sudden, Chris Sale is back and pitching really well.
Yeah, he had to be stoked. He pitched a great game against the Red Sox, his former team, and there's all kinds of consternation there about what happened, and does he have the stones to do this? And meanwhile, this is a guy who's been great, nothing short of great in the bigs before. Left-hander, and for the Braves to get him the way they hit, if this is going to be the way he pitches for them, it's going to be pretty rich for them because they obviously they're great anyway, but to get Sale throwing like that is tremendous.
All right, one more. Luis Arraez, he's one of our favorites. Goes to the Padres. The Padres have won 4 out of 6 since he's been there. And last night, his first home game, walk-off single, drives in the run, and they beat the Dodgers 2-1, and they sold out last night, and Arraez gets the big hit. How about that?
Ah, God! Did you see Machado and Tatis after that? I mean, they're just going wild. Yeah. I mean, what this guy has done, it's not a fluke because he's going to be doing stuff like this. He's not going to be homering, out of the ballpark, but he drills singles everywhere around the park. He's a .330 hitter probably, and it's just a real spark for them. And the Giants are going to have a tough time catching them, let alone the Dodgers. I mean, the Padres have a little something going right now, and they got this kid Michael King, who pitched last night. He hasn't allowed an earned run in 13 innings, and he pitched great against the Dodgers. He was part of the Soto deal with the Yankees, and he's in their rotation now. So Padres on a little bit of a roll, but I love Arraez. I love watching him hit, and I love him in a setting that befits his talent.
Yeah, good stuff. The good baseball stories. All right, Bruce Jenkins with us. May 11th, 1972, the great Willie Mays. There's now John Shea, your colleague, is going to join us shortly. Talk about the Willie Mays pop-up museum or exhibition or whatever we want to call it across the street at 190 King Street. But on today's date, 1972, Willie got traded. How about that? To the New York Mets for Charlie Williams. Willie Mays. Even John Shea is shaking his head. Willie Mays for Charlie Williams.
It's still jarring. It's still like it just happened yesterday.
Right.
It is. It is. I mean, one night he's playing for the Giants. Now he's near the end of the line. He's not hitting. He only pinch hits in the game. He gets a single. The next day, Ken Henderson's in center for the Giants, and Mays is gone. They were in Montreal. I'm surprised. Not a big shock. They did this trade as far away from home as they did it in another country. Because you don't want to do that at home, but. It's so funny, though. So he goes to the Mets, right? He's playing for Yogi Berra. And next thing you know, his first game with the Mets, he's leading off. Yogi leads him off, which I totally love. He's playing first base. He's out there with Buddy Harrelson and Tommy Agee and Cleon Jones and all these institutional, Mets guys. And he homers. The game's against the Giants, okay? He homers off Don Carruthers to break a 4-4 tie, and the Mets win. And an amazing story. He was near the end, and people remember some of the bad things, but he did a lot for the Mets that year and the next year. And guys like Kuzman and Seaver, they still talk about what an amazing influence he was. Just invaluable to have that guy on the team.
Yeah, can you imagine? Of course, we just had his birthday last week, and we've got the Rickwood game coming up in June, which is going to honor Willie and so many of the Negro League players. But can you imagine, Willie Mays showing up in your clubhouse and the next day, and you're the Mets, and then you end up going to the World Series with him? How about that for a baseball story?
Yeah, that's just wild. I mean, there's so much of that story. I'm glad John Shea's coming on, because he'll always have something fresh for you.
Yeah, I got to ask John about the Charlie Williams trade. What does Willie say about the Charlie Williams trade? It's a good tease for John. Mays was at the point of his career where he wanted to, be set up financially for the end of his career and later. And it wasn't. He wanted like $180,000 or something. It sounded like a lot in those days. And the Giants, this Horace Stoneham wasn't going for it. Nope.
And Joan Payson, who owned the Mets, had been a former stakeholder in the Giants before she took over the Mets ownership, and she had a real soft spot for Mays. I mean, who wouldn't, really? And she was delighted to get him in, to give him what he wanted.
Boy, so just when you think baseball can't get any crazier, Willie Mays traded for Charlie Williams, May 11th, 1972. Wow. All right. Chris, good to talk with you.
You bet. By the way, Grandal is catching Skeens, and he's got a couple guys on here, so we'll see if he gets out of it. Good to talk to you guys.
All right. Talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks, Bruce.
Okay.
All right. More coming up. John Shea is going to join us next. If we look to my right, across the street on King Street, at 190 King Street, we've got the Willie Mays pop-up exhibition. John, I want to say this correct. It's not a museum. Exhibit. Okay, it's an exhibit, but it's spectacular. And John's has seen it, and he'll talk about it. It's going to be open to the public on Monday, on game days, right? And we'll talk about that. All right, more coming up live from 58 Social. We've got Giants baseball today. It's the Giants and the Reds. Two good young pitchers, Nick Lodolo and Mason Black. It's Hello Kitty Day. And I'm looking to my right. They're lined up, Carmen.
Hello, Kitty.
Hello, Kitty. John Miller, where is he?
Are you going to wear it in the press box? I mean, I think that's okay.
Marty's wearing the hat. We're getting the hat. The hat's going on, Marty, before the end of the day.
They're lined up already. They're lined up outside of this. This is a good giveaway today.
Yeah, I know. I'm hoping to get one myself,
We know people.
Do we?
Yes, we
do. You
do.
know people.
All right. All right, more coming up. Good to see you. Everyone out here at I almost said the public house, at 58 Social right here on the patio. More coming up right after this. Fans, it's great to have you back with us as we're joined by Grant Power. He is the president and CEO of Nations. Grant, I love to talk about the menu at Nations, especially this time of year. What's going on?
Well, just as spring brings real baseball games, spring brings the strawberry season at Nations. And we do not believe in frozen strawberries, so we only have them during the spring, summer, and early fall months when we can get them fresh from Southern California. That time's arrived. And so strawberry tart, strawberry cheesecake becomes our best-selling pie. during this time of year. Strawberry pancakes, strawberry French toast.
How about breakfast at Nations? We talk about that a lot.
For 27 of our locations, any time of day, I love getting breakfast at night. We can mix and match, sub, if you don't want the hash browns and toast, we'll throw in the French toast or the pancakes. Your choice of meat with the breakfast, again, the wild salmon goes wonderful with the eggs, but we got the bacon, sausage, linguiça, you name it. You can't really experience the Nation's dining experience if you haven't tried the breakfast at least once.
I love talking about Nations. Grant, great to have you with us. Have a good day. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Marty.
Hey Giants fans, Sandra G here. You're listening to the Giants pregame show here on KNBR. I've got Blake Sable here giving his mom a Mother's Day shout out.
Hi Mom, just want to say happy Mother's Day and I love you. Thank you for making my lunches every day growing up. Thank you for all the afternoon snacks. Thank you for always being the shoulder to cry on growing up. So I love you, Mom.
What's the most important thing that you've learned from your mom?
I think the most important thing is it's always more important to be a good person than a good player.
Love it. Thanks a lot, Blake.
Yeah.
All right, Giants need a win today as they take on the Cincinnati Reds game 2 of this 3-game series. And, of course, Mother's Day is tomorrow. Sandra did a great job of getting those sound bites. We got many more, too.
Yeah, more to come. The guys were doing an awesome job shouting out their moms, their wives, their family members, and really sharing with us what their favorite and most prized
I like the question when you say, what did you learn most from you? I like that question. Mm-hmm. John, we may ask that to John Shea when he comes on today. So, John, you can start thinking about it. However, Gene Bagato checked in from the Tides up in Bodega Bay, said that they've been working feverishly to be ready for Mother's Day. Now, listen to the menu here. In addition to the usual bill of fare, we know what they've got up there, the great fish. A special Mother's Day menu has been created. How about this? That will include porcini mushroom ravioli, pappardelle pasta with rock shrimp, if I said that right, almond-crusted salmon, and for dessert, strawberry shortcake, a specialty of the house. Come on, Gene, really? Wow. So if you're looking to do something really special for Mom on her weekend, and it's gorgeous up there, too, you need to look no further than the Tides Wharf restaurant in scenic Bodega Bay, and, of course, you can spend the night at the Inn at the Tides across the highway there, and you get those spectacular views. John Shea joins us from the San Francisco Chronicle. John, how are you?
I'm great.
You have to use the microphone. It helps.
this is so old school. Okay.
All right. Come on, you're not a rookie. All right.
Yeah, all good.
What about
Beautiful,
Mother's Day for you?
Beautiful day.
Give us a Mother's Day thought for you.
Oh man, I mean,
your
nothing.
mom in baseball. Look, you're such a baseball guy.
Nothing but positive influence and inspiration. You score 4 points in a CYO game, and you come home and say you had a terrible game, and she thinks it's the best game in the world. You come home with the C on a final, and she says it's a great grade. Keep trying. And I said, oh my, I was never buried. I had 4 brothers, so maybe with a lot of hand-me-downs and a lot of hand-me-down advice, I got the best of all worlds. But it's we just lost her about 2 years ago at 92, and it was a wonderful time because my father died when I was 16, so she had double duty for pretty much my whole life.
Wow.
Wonderful person. Thank you, Marty.
Very good. No, I'm glad you could say that. Was she a baseball fan?
Yeah, she was. She always wanted to make sure if I was ever on with you or anybody else, let her know, because she recorded it. And I think somewhere there's 50,000 recordings of me doing radio with you. Not just on your website, but on in a shelf somewhere.
I like it. Very good.
But yeah, she grew up in Chicago, so she was always big on the Cubs. And when they won in 16, it was very special to her, even though she had transformed into a Bay Area fan. But yeah, she had stories about the last time they were in the World Series when she was a kid, and playing stickball in the streets of Chicago when cars weren't a thing so much, not heavily populated. But yeah, the mean streets of Chicago to the mean streets of Mill Valley.
Very good. All right, that is what Mother's Day is all about. John, I'm happy to have you on. You've been very busy all week. Of course, right across the street from where we are right now at 58 Social, you could see it at 190 King Street. There's this very special Willie Mays pop-up exhibit, and it's spectacular. And I've got to go over there and take a look at it, and I want to see it. But I want you to let everyone know about it and how they can see it.
Well, Marty, you probably, like I have spoken over the years, the Giants should have a Willie Mays museum.
Yeah.
Now, this is not a museum per se. It's a pop-up. They have a lease through November 1st, so it'll be there all season. But I've always argued you got to have a Willie Mays museum. There's a Ted Williams museum, a Babe Ruth museum, a Yogi Berra museum. There's museums for all the greats. There's no Willie Mays museum. And for a guy who's lived here most of his life, played here most of his career, and inspired so many people, why there hasn't been a museum, whether it's somewhere on the Embarcadero. Now in 2003, the city officials got together, and for whatever reason, over here at Pier 48, it disappeared. It didn't become a thing. So I was always saying, well, in fact, I've written this, put it out there at Mission Rock, just a little 30 by 30 cubicle, jam in a lot of Willie stuff. The Reds have this great museum. I think it's $10. You go in and it's upper deck, lower deck. It's massive. It's wonderful. It's right on site at the ballpark, and other places do too. There's a great Hank Aaron exhibit in Atlanta, and so on and so forth. But so not instead of a museum, because that's not off the table in future years, but this is a temporary thing because it's a pop-up, and it's 6 months, and it's pretty much in the year of Rick Whitfield, in the week of Willie's 93rd birthday. It's 2024, and we know what 24 means to all of us. And so they said, well, we have the space, what can we do with it? And there's a real cool stained glass window out front of Willie in a stance. It's probably 12 feet by 12 feet, whatever it is. And then you go in, and it's, you spend a little time in there because there's more than 500 slides. There's about 10 projectors, 7 with stills and 3 with video. And then maybe the main attractions, or one of them, is the bathrooms. There's 4 of them. It was a toilet warehouse previously, so there's plenty of bathrooms. And each bathroom has a bunch of projectors with themes of all the ballparks that he played in. One is Rickwood, one is Seal Stadium, one is Candlestick, one is the Polo Grounds. There was not a 5th bathroom for Shea Stadium, so they're out of the loop. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, there's a lot of those pictures I've never seen before, and a lot of the stuff they have on display I've never seen, so it's pretty neat.
And they can have events there too, right? Isn't there sort of an area for a seated area?
Yeah, there's like a little mini theater, plus there's a kitchen. In the back, there's room for a bar, and David O'Keefe, who owns Hotel Villa, owns this space.
That's my place.
So I
Hotel
imagine he's
Villa.
got a liquor license. I'm just saying. So there might be room. The Hotel Villa.
The Hotel Villa is going to take care of the food. If there's an event there, they're going to take care of that. They're going to do the catering and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so when the 2014 team comes back for its 10-year reunion, when the Core Four goes up on the Wall of Fame, and they have these special occasions or special get-togethers, I'm sure they're going to use that space, privately or publicly.
Yeah, and the VIA is involved with that as well. All right, so now it's going to open up Monday, right, to the public? Isn't that so? What are the hours? How does one get there?
Yeah, it was free of charge, and it is opening 3 hours before first pitch. So winter game times during the week, 6:40?
6:40.
So it'll probably open 3:40, and then it's closed during the games, and it's closed when they're on the road. So it's just, it's a pop-up, and you pop in. And if you had a long walk, like yesterday was extremely hot, and if you went in there, they have AC, and you can sit around and look at the video and look at all these cool pictures. And it's not that it's going to be a Mays pop-up exhibit forever. I'm guessing when the 2004, after June 20th, when Rickwood is done with, they could turn it into the 2014 exhibit. They could leave the Mays stained glass window up front, but they could also populate it with all the pictures and videos of 2014 when they come in, and maybe younger Giant fans would appreciate that.
Yeah, there's someone very special in the Giants organization who's coordinated this. Missy,
the archives director.
She's
of the
terrific.
Team. Yeah, she does a lot of work. In fact,
Lucky.
Yeah, and her fingerprints are pretty much all over any exhibit you see at the ballpark.
She's fabulous.
So even in the press box, we have that little exhibit. But you go.
I think Maria had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, but you go to any level of the ballpark and you see any kind of display, that's her creative input. And so she's got access to all the photos I've never seen, memorabilia. And so, maybe this is the genesis or the prelude to a Mays Museum down the road, right, Marty?
No, I said this for years. That when they had the project across the street, there's got to be a museum.
Yeah.
For all the Giants memorabilia. Well, the Gotham Club has a lot of great stuff.
Right. I think this started with Greg Johnson, the chairman, speaking with Larry Baer, the CEO, in the off season, and then they handed it down to Jack Baer, who's executive VP, legal counsel, been here since day one. In fact, that glove you see out in left field was one he pulled out of his garage that belonged to his dad.
Jack Baer.
Yeah, Jack Baer.
Yeah, Jack Baer's dad. That was his glove.
Yeah, and apparently the story is Coca-Cola, the sponsor. Yeah, we got a bottle up there, but there's a void. There's something missing. There was talk of a dunk take and whatever. And then when Jack suggested, what about this glove? They took the glove and said, oh, my God, it's a three-finger glove with a thumb. It's one of the old-school gloves. And that's magnificent. That's a lot cooler than a Coke bottle. But it's just part of the vibe here. So anyway, Jack, ran with it and worked with Missy to turn that into a cool project.
I can't wait to see it. It's fabulous. I'm really glad. What does Willie think about it?
Well, I spoke with Renee and Willie, and they're pretty pumped. They were in on the ground floor, obviously. And, anything that Willie can do or share to inspire young kids, he's all in on. In fact, there's a little corner of the exhibit that honors the Willie May Scholars, which is a program that benefits San Francisco youth. And some of them were inducted last night before the game, before Dusty Baker got his little award.
It's funny.
Big award.
It's funny. Willie, of course, has always been a champion of kids, right?
Yeah.
And stickball, ice cream in New York and all that kind of stuff. We know the stories he used to tell us about it. But Lefty O'Doul was the same way. Lefty O'Doul in San Francisco was a big deal, like Willie Mays. He was Mr. Baseball in San Francisco, and he always did things for kids and brought kids to the game. And, of course, the Lefty O'Doul Foundation for Kids existed for a while, and they'd bring kids to the game every year. They'd walk them over from the Tenderloin. So there's always been that connection of the baseball star, Willie, like a Lefty O'Doul. And it's a legacy that goes back to the 30s, almost 100 years.
And Lefty was honored before the game last night. Tom Dool usually sits right over here, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
On Irish Heritage Night
his
last
second
night.
cousin, Lefty, got inducted in the Irish Hall of Fame.
I got more to say about Lefty O'Doul, too.
What do you got?
Well, he should be in the Hall of Fame.
So, I mean, he's got the third highest batting average of all time. He didn't have the
349.
longevity. He pitched, he hit. But at least give him the Buck O'Neill Ambassador Award.
Right.
Because what he did for relations between America and Japan, oh my goodness.
1949.
That needs to be known by everybody.
1949.
And he brought teams over there. He introduced the game over there. He's a hero over there still.
He's in the Japanese Baseball Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Why he's not in the Baseball Hall of Fame, I just think people are not educated.
Well, that's my project.
Yeah.
I'm going to get behind that. Yeah.
He was a heck of a ball player, a heck of a manager with the Seals forever. He managed more Seals games than anybody.
He was San Francisco baseball.
He was.
There are no Warriors, no 49ers, no
Right.
hockey. It was baseball, the Seals, and Lefty O'Doul was the guy. He was it, and he did a lot.
Lefty O'Doul Gate. Are we near Lefty O'Doul Gate or Lefty O'Doul Bridge?
And the bridge, yeah.
And the bridge, and
Yeah.
Lefty O'Doul Plaza right there.
And I miss Lefty's, the tavern.
I know. And he created that
Yeah.
as a place for baseball people
Sure.
to go and hang out. Oh, I got a lot to say about that one. All right, Russ Stanley and I have talked about it. I want to get it going again.
Here's a little trivia. Do you know that on the Willie Mays catch, I spoke of Greg Johnson, right?
Yeah.
So he's kind of in charge of ownership these days. And he's kind of the one with Larry who pushed this project across the street. There's that famous picture of Willie making the catch at the Polo Grounds, Game 1 of the World Series, 8th inning, right? 2-2 tie. Wirtz hits the ball a million feet, and Doby and Rosen don't score. So once that picture became digital and was more in focus and more clear, he found out that his dad and grandfather are in the picture.
Really?
So they both went to Game 1. They're about 10 rows up, 11 rows up, right above Willie's glove. Is Greg's dad and grandfather. Pretty cool.
Sitting with Arnold Haino, probably.
Yeah, Arnold Haino was a couple of sections over, more left center.
A Day in the Bleachers.
He wrote the book, The Day in the Bleachers, and everyone should read that book.
Well, I had so much fun with Willie about that catch because,
Yeah.
we did all the shows together. And I was a lawyer. I was a lawyer, still am. And he would say, can't you ask better questions than that? Come on, you're a lawyer.
Right.
And I would say, look, you had that catch all the way. We all knew it. You milked it for 60 years. You've been milking that catch. We all knew you had it. So we would go back and forth like that. Very special guy.
That line reminds me of Blake Sable. Is that all you got, right? As an attorney, that's the best you can. So
Really?
when Willie was last at the ballpark on his birthday, his 92nd, March 6th of 2023, the people surrounding him were thinking, well, let's not make this one a big deal, because they kind of positioned themselves, and he was in a wheelchair, in the family room right across from the clubhouse. And they said, well, let's just invite a couple local guys like Brandon Crawford, Jock Peterson. They grew up. They know who Willie is. We'll just keep it low key. A couple of minutes later, I look behind me, and there's a line going all the way out the hallway of Giants waiting to greet Willie.
Yeah.
And the first guy in line is Blake Sable, wide-eyed rookie, right? Doesn't really know much about Willie, and goes in to shake his hand. And goes in like a dead fish, right? Because trying to respect the elder.
You don't do
and
that.
And Willie
with Willie
crushes him and says, as he told you about the questions, he said, is that all you got?
Right. Oh, come on. He did that with Aaron, my son. When Aaron shook his hand, he said, that's it? That's your best handshake?
So Blake had to firm up and say, okay, sorry, Mr. Mays. Went in a little bit more firm, because Mays still has got the most firm handshake in the league, right?
Yeah, well, Willie could have put him on the IL with that handshake.
I love it. John, great to have you. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, we talk about everything and nothing.
Yeah, but story tomorrow. You've been doing one every Sunday about Rickwood. What's up tomorrow?
Well, actually, tomorrow is I asked the question. The Giants in 10, 12, and 14. It's not about Rickwood. It's more about the legacy and what's the Hall of Fame. Because we just saw the Bash-Off, the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame, and Doug Brian Sabian.
Right.
Okay, what's going to happen in Cooperstown? How are they going to acknowledge those years, that championship era? Because so far nobody, right? And I talk about how it's going to be difficult for Sabian to get in there, even though he had his fingerprints over the 3 World Series titles here and 4 in New York as a farm director.
He'll get in.
But it's not easy. And I write it up and explain that he's probably not going to get in the next time, and it's every 3 years, because the next time is going to include Dusty Baker, Terry Francona, and probably Bruce Bochy. And you don't see more than, and Dave Dombrowski. So Brian Sabian would be one of those 5 guys. It's not going to be easy because everybody of the 16 people have 4 votes apiece. It's really hard mathematically to get more than 3, and Jim Leland was the only guy this year to come in. So anyway, Posey will be up in a few years. Is he going to be in? Because you look at his counting stats, 1,500 hits, 150 home runs. That doesn't do it, but you look at his rate stats and the OPS plus, the slugging, and he's one of the best hitting catchers ever. Doesn't have the longevity of Yogi or even Piazza, but the 3 World Series and the Gold Glove and the Silver Sluggers and the Rookie of the Year and the MVP, and I think he'll get in. I don't know if it'll be first ballot, but it's, you look at that Yankee dynasty and said, man, they're going to have a lot of Hall of Famers. But what about the Giants run? How many of those guys will be represented? And I spoke with the president of the Hall of Fame for the story, Josh Rawitch, to get his input and to find how difficult this might be. But it's going to be challenging for a lot of these guys.
Oh, good. I'll look forward to talking to Bruce about it tomorrow when we're on. John, great to have you with us. Thank you.
My pleasure, guys.
Thanks, John.
Pleasure. Boy, the guy can talk. Very good, John. Very good. Let's hear it for John Shea. Come on, a little bit, huh? Very good. You work hard. You're doing a nice job. Very nice. Boy, that's a lot of fun to talk about the Willie Mays pop-up exhibit. I got to match you up with Richie Azzolino from Sotomare, who's a great Giants fan. You two guys sitting at one table, about 4 hours, I'd come back. That would be about it. All right. More coming up. We'll take a break. Carmen's got my Salulu for this week, and you know what that is? Salulu, or what's the other part?
Delulu. Or Salulu.
Delulu or Salulu. Yeah, we got it coming
up next.
All right, more right here on the Sports Leader.
I know, look at him.
Fans, just like baseball, Georgie Brothers Furniture is full of tradition as they've served the Bay Area for over 90 years. Still a third-generation family-owned furniture showroom. Their talented staff work as a team to help their customers select the best pieces of furniture to invest in. The 50,000 square foot showroom is full of over 150 wonderful manufacturers. One of the most popular furniture lines I love and own are Stressless chairs. Stressless makes all kind of high-quality furniture, including sectional sofas, love seats, single reclining chairs, as well as the classic Stressless chair and ottoman. Now, starting March 29th and running all the way through May 28th, there is a great sale on Stressless furniture right here at Georgie Brothers. Visit the Stressless Gallery today. You'll find something that you love. That's Georgie Brothers in South San Francisco since 1933, the best source for home furnishings, or visit them at georgiebrothers.com. That's GIORGIBROS.com. Remember, tell them that Marty sent you.
Hey Giants fans, this is Sandra G. You're listening to KNBR 680 and 104.5. Tyro Estrada's here to wish his mom a happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day, everybody. Happy day.
Thanks a lot, Tyro. Have a good game.
This is Carmen Q bringing you back to the Marty Lurie Show. We're at 58 Social. It's a beautiful day at the ballpark. And what is a beautiful day without Delulu or Salulu, right, Marty?
I'm ready. All right, I got my French fries, and I'm ready to do it. All right, let's go.
All right. For those not familiar with the game, Delulu means you're crazy. Salulu means that's going to work. So here are your three questions. Ramos will still be on the big league roster in August. We know that he's up now, so.
I'm going Salulu.
Oh, you think he can get it together?
I think this is his chance. And if he does anything here over the next couple of weeks, this team needs offense. He's the guy.
I'm going to say Salulu, too.
Oh.
I like Ramos. I think that his speed is going to be a really good thing for the Giants to have, and I think it's his turn.
Yeah,
Let's give it a go.
I like it, too. I like the new energy in the clubhouse. Always a good thing to kind of shift the losing streak, potentially.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 2. Mason Black will be up longer than Keaton Wynn. Who will maybe get sent down first? Will they stay together? What do we think?
Delulu.
Delulu.
I think Keaton Wynn, it's his job.
It's his job, okay.
Unless there's something really wrong with him. I mean, he's had a couple of rough games. Tipping his pitches, something, but that splitter is really good. And I think he gets another shot.
All right, Sandra.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with Keaton Wynn on this one. So I guess that's Delulu, right?
I'm gonna give it a Salulu just to be different. Let's see how the kid pitches today at Oracle Park.
Yeah.
What if he's lights out here?
Yeah.
Then he could really help the club. So I'm gonna go the Salulu.
All right.
I had to think about that for a second.
All right.
Okay, last one. Blake Sable will be a major contributor in May.
In May.
We're this month.
May.
We're in May currently, so he's going to be one of the catalysts for some wins.
Salulu.
I love that answer.
Look, he was 6 for 12 at one point, and he
is.
does swing the bat. And this is a team that needs some offense, and he's going to get a shot. I'm going to go Salulu for him. I think Sable makes an impact for this month.
I'm going Salulu also. He came back and he got his first career 3-hit game on Wednesday in Colorado just after being recalled from Sacramento. So I'm going Salulu. I think Sable's got great energy and he has really, truly, honestly improved, in my opinion, behind the dish since he's been back. So I've seen a lot of good things.
What about your Delulu?
I'm going to do 3
I think he looks
Salulus.
good.
3 Salulus, okay?
I see improvement.
All right.
I got it too, because all the things you guys said, but also vibes. I like the guy. He's cool.
Big on vibes.
He is.
Yeah.
He's a good clubhouse guy. All right, that's our show for today. Back with you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Carmen and Sandra G. Coming up next, we've got a great baseball game today. Lodolo and Mason Black. But coming up next, Walter Ika Balsetta with our Giants warm-up right here at 58 Social. More coming up right after this.
What's up, Giants fans, and welcome to the Giants warm-up show. I'm Walter Icauceta, taking you all the way up to first pitch between the Giants and the Reds. Game 2 of this series yesterday did not go to plan, but we are live here at 58 Social, formerly known as the Public House. Come by, have a drink or 2 or 3. I know David's going to put it on his tab, so we will be having a good time out here getting ready for Game 2. And Danny Dunn, where's Danny Dunn? He's going to open up a tab as well. But welcome, everybody, to the Giants warm-up show. We have a great show lined up for you. We will be speaking with we got to get some positive vibes here for the San Francisco Giants, because what is happening on the field, everyone isn't feeling up to par right now with the San Francisco Giants, especially with that offense. So we're going to get the good vibes going, and we will be speaking with 3-time World Series champion. We will be speaking with Javi Lopez. So he's going to be stopping by, and we will play that interview for you coming up in about 10 to 15 minutes. So another Giants game, another disappointing showing for the Giants offense. And I mean, we're at the point now where it's Mother's Day weekend, and happy Mother's Day to everyone out there, and shout out to my mom who's listening as well. Happy Mother's Day. It's a great weekend for some baseball, but we want to see some offense. That is a huge thing with the San Francisco Giants, to where they are not able to generate any type of consistency. And I'm going to open up the phone lines. Go ahead and give us a call at 415-808-KNBR. That's 415-808-5627. Go ahead and give us a call, because I want to get the thoughts of the Giants fans. I want to gauge where everyone is with this 2024 Giants team. How is everyone feeling? And I want to know, what if you were to describe this Giants team, what would the word be for 2024? What would you use? One single word, or if you want to use a phrase like Logan Webb, we'll play that for you in a second. But if you want to describe this Giants team with one word or a phrase, what would you say? I mean, there's the word of inconsistency. That's where you look at this Giants team and you look at the offense. They just are not able to string together rallies. It just seems like a lot of individual at-bats, and this is a team that is trying to morph. I mean, you look at the offseason acquisitions, you look at Jorge Soler, who is on the injured list, you look at Nick Ahmed, who is on the injured list, and that's also something to factor in as well. I mean, this Giants team is just banged up. They're in a vulnerable situation right now when you look at this current team. I mean, they weren't hitting with the guys in the lineup who were expected to hit, the 3, 4, 5 hitters with Jorge Soler, with Matt Chapman. And then the question comes, are they supposed to be the 3, 4, 5 hitters? I know they were brought in to be, but was that a little bit of a big ask? So again, what word would you use to describe the 2024 Giants season? Is it inconsistent? Are you disappointed? Are you still hopeful? Because we are looking at this Giants team right now on Mother's Day weekend. We're only 2 weekends in to May. It's not time to panic, but there is a sense of optimism to when you look at this Giants team with this starting rotation, and that's where it all starts. And that's what the Giants have tried to climb back into being, is being a pitch first, hit second team. And when you look at this, just the state of baseball at this current juncture, is that a philosophy that can win? Is that something that we can see win? We've seen it happen, and we'll talk about all of that with Javier Lopez coming up. We've seen it happen in the World Series years, in 2010, 2012, 2014. We knew what the formula was, but does that formula still work in 2024 version of baseball? You have good pitching. That's what the Giants have. You look at that outing last night. If you were to tell me that Logan Webb is going to go 7 innings strong, only give up 2 runs, I would have thought that we would be talking about a win today. But that is just the nature of this Giants team, to where, but in the past, 7 innings, a Giants starter, they go 7 innings, they are in good shape. They were actually undefeated with a starter going 7 innings. So that was their first loss yesterday, with Logan Webb having a very solid outing. But again, pitchers can do everything in their control, and they can do everything to put your team in a position to win. I think that's all you want to have in your starter. And when you look at the starting rotation, that is what this Giants team brings you. Every single start, you have a starter that goes out there to give you a chance to win. That's all you could want. But self-inflicted wounds, especially when you look at this team with the Cincinnati Reds, they kill you on the base paths. And that is something that was on full display yesterday with Elly De La Cruz. And that guy, I'm not saying that everyone on the Reds have that type of speed. It might be a generational type speed with Elly De La Cruz. But you saw it on full display, to where this is the bread and butter of what the Cincinnati Reds are attempting to be, and what they can potentially become in years to come with Elly De La Cruz and Benson. I mean, they have a lot of speed on that team, Spencer Steer as well. So I mean, when you look at everything that the Reds bring, you have to be on point at every situation in this game. And yesterday, Bob Melvin pretty much brought up the fact that you can't have self-inflicted wounds. You can't have situations to where you allow 90 feet, especially with this Reds team, but especially with the lack of offense and consistency in the lineup. You just cannot afford those small mistakes in the moment, but they are magnified because of this Giants team. So Bob Melvin talked about the defense and how they need to be a lot better moving forward.
I mean, look, you can't give these guys extra bases. Certainly one of them ended up costing us a run. So when you're not scoring many runs, you got to play perfect defense or can't make mistakes. You know, it was a combination today.
Yeah, you can't have mistakes that lead to runs. And when you look at the speed factor for the Cincinnati Reds, Elly De La Cruz gets on early in the first inning, steals second, and then he gets on or scores later in the inning. And earlier or later in the game, I believe it was in the 4th inning, where Elly De La Cruz hit a liner over Casey Schmidt's head, almost got it. That was a hell of a leap for Casey Schmidt. Almost made a phenomenal play with filling in for Nick Ahmed, who is on the injured list. But when you look at, he reached for it, and now with Slater on concussion protocol, you have Tyler Fitzgerald playing in center field, and he kicked it. He botched the ball, and those are types of situations to where you could have kept Elly De La Cruz at first base because he wasn't going to advance. If you cleanly field that ball, you keep him at first. Now, does he ultimately get to second, ultimately get to third because of his speed and his ability to steal bases? Potentially, but you have to look at those self-inflicted wounds as he kicks it, Tyler Fitzgerald kicks it in center field, and Elly De La Cruz advances to second base, ultimately steals third, and ultimately would come around to score on that. So those are just small things that are, again, magnified because of the lack of offense from the San Francisco Giants. And Logan Webb pitched phenomenal. That is what your ace of the staff is supposed to go out there and do. He had a rough road trip over there in Philadelphia and in Boston. It was a breath of fresh air for him to come back to San Francisco, where he loves to pitch, and he went 7 strong innings. That's what an ace is supposed to do, but he has nothing to control over that offense, and you can start seeing the frustration filling in with the Giants in that clubhouse. And Logan Webb did not hold back in what his word. We're talking about the words that you would use to describe the San Francisco Giants to this date, 2 weekends into May. Logan Webb did not hold back at all.
How do you describe this sort of overall stretch? You guys come off a kind of a rough road trip and then come back home and face a team that's been struggling.
Yeah, it's dog to be honest. As a whole, just can't. It's frustrating. To be honest, it's not good enough.
Yeah, frustrating and dog-esque. That's what Logan Webb said about how he's feeling about the frustrations with the San Francisco Giants team. So is that your word? You got to edit a little bit, Raph. You got to be on that dump button real quick. But we're gonna go out to the phone lines. I wanted to get your thoughts on the San Francisco Giants, and let's start with Raph. Let's go with Lloyd and Folsom. I want to hear his word that he has for the San Francisco Giants. Lloyd, what's up? Welcome to the Giants warm-up show on KNBR.
Good afternoon. Thank you. My word is lethargic. I don't see any energy other than Lamont Wade. I don't see any energy from the team. I don't see any excitement. There is nothing. They are lethargic, and that falls on your coaching. Something is not clicking in that coaching staff, and I don't know what it is, but you don't see any motivation. You don't see anything from these guys. And we have a rally stopper, and unfortunately, his name is Chapman. He's killing us. Last night, 2 different times, he comes up to bat, 2 outs, runner in scoring position. He had the same look on his face that I used to see on my little leaguers, their first time ever facing real pitching, not knowing what to expect, not knowing what to swing at. He's lost. He needs to be set for 2 or 3 days and let him get his focus, let him get in the cage and just not worry about anything but getting his stroke back.
Thanks for the call, Lloyd. Lethargic. I like that word. Great word in the dictionary. But yeah, I mean, you look at Matt Chapman, and he has played, I think he's only not been in the game 1 time this season. So, yeah, he is pressing. And that was the expectation when you look at the acquisitions with the Giants. And maybe there's a lot more pressure because he is a Bomel guy, and Bomel relies on Matt Chapman to be that voice, that extension of himself in the clubhouse. And he's not performing with the bat. Now, yesterday, he made some phenomenal plays on defense. And again, if you're not going to hit, you have to be a best version of yourself and keep the other guys from getting hits as well. So he turned 2 really good double plays yesterday. You just hope to see that that excitement or that momentum that you get with fielding a good ball and turning two, you just hope that will eventually turn into some offense and some confidence. Not saying that Matt Chapman doesn't have any confidence at all. I'm not saying that at all. But there just needs to be a boost, like Lloyd said in Folsom. There needs to be a boost. There needs to be some type of excitement that gets generated. Is that from coming from some of these guys that are coming up from AAA? Is that coming from a Blake Sable? Is he bringing the vibes that you want to see in a clubhouse? Is that going to come from the speed and the swagger of a Elliot Ramos, who is finally getting a shot? And I hope that we get to see him, especially with these injuries, I hope we get to see Elliot Ramos more consistently on this homestand, because there just needs to be something. There needs to be something to generate the offense. So Lloyd, thank you so much for the call. Let's go out to Sam in New York. Sam, welcome to the leader. How are you feeling about the Giants, and what's your word of the day for the Giants? How are you feeling?
My word of the day for the Giants is bummer. Just bummer, man, because there's so many positives to this team, and I feel like at this point, if we had won a few more games and the offense was scoring, I don't know, a league average amount of runs, then we could be celebrating the really great things, like the pitching rotation. Because if you had told me at the start of Mother's Day or at the start of May that Jordan Hicks and Kyle Harrison would have been putting the numbers and the performances that they have, I think every Giants fan will be over the moon. Or that Jung-Hoo Lee, that his fielding and his hitting, even with his, subpar batting average, we could be celebrating him. So it's just a bummer, man, that the offense is dominating the headlines, that it's boring baseball, that it's not even that they're striking out. They're just like almost get the hit and then, bummer. So that's my word of the day. I'm not totally sure how to fix it, but, I want to celebrate this team. I think they have good guys, and I think they have good players, but it's just hasn't clicked.
Well, and that's the thing, and thank you so much for the call, Sam. Really appreciate you chiming in on the weekends, man. Always feel free to call back, and we'll chat more Giants baseball. But I mean, it is a bummer.
Bummer, dude.
Yeah, man. Yeah, perfect rap. It is a bummer. Underwhelming, I think, is a word that you can use for this Giants team. But again, is there still hope? It is early in this season. It is May. We can't go into full panic mode, but this Giants team, they are better. I can tell you, they are better than what we have seen. They just need to prove it. And something needs to spark it. So what is that? Is it going to be Elliot Ramos? Is it going to be Brett Wisely, who is called up? Is it going to be Blake Snell when he comes back from the IL? Again, the pitching isn't the issue. Where I think that coming into this season for the Giants, there was a lot of question marks on this rotation, but in the early goings, this rotation has been pretty solid. So again, 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Give us a call. Give me your word of the day for the San Francisco Giants. We are live on YouTube and on Twitch. I will pop in there in a second and talk to these guys. But coming up next, I will be speaking with three-time World Series champion. Let's get the positive vibes. Javi Lopez is stopping by, the lefty specialist. We're going to talk about the San Francisco Giants team in 2024 and keep the positive vibes going up to first pitch. So you're listening to Giants Warm-Up Show on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader. Welcome back to the Giants warm-up show on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader. I'm your host, Walter Icabreseta, and I am excited to welcome in my next guest on this show, the three-time World Series champion, and he will be getting his own plaque along with the other four, the core four. Jot this down in your calendars. July 13th, the core four will be inducted right there on 2nd Street with the rest of the Giants Wall of Fame. He will be inducted with Jeremy Affeldt, with Santiago Casilla, with Sergio Romo, and now with me, the great, the lefty specialist, Javier Lopez. What's up, Javi? How's it going, man?
Hey, man, thanks for having me. Things are great. Yeah, things are looking good. And, hopefully the Giants get this thing going.
Yeah, I mean, going into the weekend, they have a struggling Reds team, so hopefully they can pounce on that. They did start to string together a couple of wins in Colorado, so maybe things are shifting for the San Francisco Giants, Javi. But, yeah, man, it was my pleasure to actually see you earlier this week at the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame to celebrate all this year's inductees, but one of them being Brian Sabian, which we'll get into shortly. But first, Javi, I do want to stick with this year's Giants team, and I want to start with the bright spot of this team, which is the starting rotation. I'd like to get your thoughts on the rotation and specifically the mindset that it brings to a clubhouse, to an entire team, knowing that you have a solid chance every single time that you step out onto that field.
Well, I think that's exactly where you build a team, especially in San Francisco. You build it on pitching and defense, and you hope for some timely hits, but scoring is at a premium at that ball club or in that ballpark, and so you try to build that way since you play 81 there. And I think going into the year, the Giants did a nice job of building a rotation, but you can see you're only as good as your next day's starting pitcher. And when you look at the road trip, they went on a 10-day road trip, and they went 3-7 on that road trip. It was, I think, a lot of that, besides the offense, which we can, of course, touch on, but the starting pitching is ultimately what got bullied around a little bit and put the Giants in a hole. And they're not built to score a lot of runs. And so when they're playing from behind, it's tough for them to play catch-up and ultimately win those games. So, that the Giants, they're really as good as that starting rotation is. And for that road trip, they had over a 7 ERA. So Logan Webb is a guy I'm always going to bet on. I think all Giants fans love to see him pitch when he's out on the mound. He's a bulldog, and he's looking for a good outing. He's had 3 so-so starts, and if there's a guy that you'd want to get the ball to open up a homestand, that's the guy you'd circle, and I'm excited to watch him and see what adjustments he's made.
Yeah, and when you look at the Giants' rotation, and of course you witnessed probably the greatest rotation for the San Francisco Giants in Lincecum, in Bad Bum. I mean, you could throw in Matt Cain, obviously, and a couple of fillers throughout the years, but it was pretty much a core of the same rotation. And I mean, winning just becomes contagious. I mean, they were so much competitors amongst themselves, but also on the mound against their opponents too. But when you look at this Giants rotation of this year, Javi, what would you say is the X factor for the Giants? Because, I mean, you just mentioned Logan Webb. I mean, I think he has maybe the biggest pressure of the starters, but he has to set the tone for the younger pitchers, and that could be an X factor not only for this season, but moving forward in the trajectory of this Giants rotation in the future. But then you look at guys that are kind of getting their footing, and Kyle Harrison and Jordan Hicks coming from the bullpen and being a starter and all that kind of stuff. And then you throw in the pitching coach, Brian Price. I mean, there's a philosophical, I think, change that has happened with the Giants starters. You can see it this year, wanting to go deeper into games. But what would be the biggest X factor of this Giants rotation from what we've seen and moving forward?
Well, I think what's really come to light so far in the first month and a half of this year is just the health. You come in, you make a big signing, a big splash in Blake Snell. You have Alex Cobb coming back. You traded for Robbie Ray. But those are all pieces that are going to come later in the season now. Blake Snell getting hurt's a big blow, especially the outings weren't what you like to see out of him, but the velocity was there. The stuff was actually working pretty well. So you hope it's not too long of a timetable for him to get back. But that's given run for a lot of the young guys. And I think Keaton Wynn had really taken advantage of that opportunity. He's had a a rough inning. It seemed real early in the starts he had a rough inning that either did him in or he was able to pitch through and able to have some success. This past road trip, I'm not sure if it was, Philly was raining. Who knows what happens? He lives and dies with that split finger. He's unable to locate it as well. But he's been able to go to the post, take the starts. But that's a guy you want to see. Jordan Hicks, like you mentioned, has really taken the opportunity of becoming a starter and really let it shine for him. And I think the X factor when you come down to it with Harrison and even Mason Black getting a little bit of action now with the injuries, I think it's who's going to take the lead from Logan Webb and be able to get deep into a ball game. When you look at the bullpen, I just feel like it's a lot of guys that are young and unproven guys, and you have a solid back end in the sense that you have the Rogers and then you got Camilo closing the door. But who's going to get the ball to those guys consistently, I think, is something that Bomel and Brian Price are trying to figure out, not only week to week, but even on a day-to-day kind of situation. So, I think if you have your staff with a bunch of 5-inning guys, you'd love to see maybe another guy jump in with Logan Webb that's going to give you a solid 6 to sometimes 7, even 8 innings. And I'm anxious to see who that might be. But it's a young, unproven staff, but they gotta find a way to win because it's a do-good league, and I think we've proven that when you talk about the Giants and in particular the NL West. The Dodgers are finding ways to figure it out. The Padres find ways to figure it out, and you've got to do the same if you want to keep pace.
Talking with Javier Lopez, 3-time World Series champion for the San Francisco Giants, talking about the Giants' rotation and the pitching. We'll get into the bullpen a little bit coming up, Javi, but you touched on something there with Jordan Hicks. I do want to kind of get into that. I mean, how difficult is it for Jordan Hicks? I mean, you were a reliever for the entirety of your career. Like, could you imagine becoming a starter? Like, what is the difficulty level of doing that at the big league level?
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine what that feels like. For me, I was a failed starter in the minor leagues. So, they gave me every opportunity. I threw over 100 innings, and it was just not good quality pitching. So I went the reverse way, which always seems easier to back off the throttle. That the workload might increase, but the amount of innings and stress on your arm decreases. So, it's one of those things where when you think about it, I'm pretty impressed with what he's been able to do. And I think I kind of talked about this earlier in the season and even before the season started. When you dangle the carrot of a guy that wants to be a starter and always wanted to be a starter and wasn't really getting that opportunity with his former ball club, and he finally reaches free agency and he gets a shot to do these things, I mean, that's got to do nothing but pump the guy up. And to be fair, he's taken advantage. Now, again, has it been clean? Have we loved what we've seen every single outing? No, but it's been pretty consistent so far. And the plus arm is still there. He's got the explosive sinker. And, even in Colorado, which is a difficult place to pitch, he battled through the innings. He got through the 5. He was able to get a huge double play to get out of an inning. And I think that's what you love to see from Jordan Hicks. And, again, I'm sure Brian Price is wondering. I'm sure all the staff is wondering when are the innings going to eat at his consistency, let's say. And I think that's something that they're going to have to keep an eye on. But ultimately, again, you've given him the carrot, and that's the reason he became a San Francisco Giant and wanted to wear the orange and black. And so when you give a guy that opportunity, they're going to try to take advantage of it. And he's done that. Now, again, he's gone that 5-inning route pretty much every time out. So you'd love to see him kind of extend those outings a little bit more and maybe test that. But I'm sure they're monitoring how many pitches they want him ultimately to eat up in a ball game. But, if it comes to winning a ball game and they need him to throw the 6th and maybe get into the 7th, then they're going to do that because they need to win.
Yeah, for sure. The experiment so far in the early goings, the early return of Jordan Hicks coming from the bullpen and being a starter has looked pretty good. I think Giants fans and the front office and the coaches are really pleased with what they're seeing with Jordan Hicks. It just comes down to what happens later in the year with the innings count, with the arm. We have to wait and see about that. But yeah, man. I mean, it's really interesting when you look at this Giants rotation, and you want to get innings out of these guys, right? And what's interesting about Jordan Hicks, I don't know if you remember, Javi, but Farhan was talking about when he was talking to Jordan Hicks, and he was just like, yeah, I got this pitch. Oh, I got a splitter. And then Farhan was just like, yeah. Okay, man. Like, yeah, but he does. He has a really good repertoire. So that's really, I'm really encouraged to see what Jordan Hicks is doing. But we talk about innings, Javi, and we're talking about Javier Lopez, former Giant, 3-time World Series champion of the San Francisco Giants. And he does some color analyst work as well. For NBC Sports Bay Area. We're talking about innings, and you did mention the bullpen. And the bullpen, for the most part, is the same guys that we've seen the last couple of years, but they are young. They are unproven. I mean, you have a solid back end of the bullpen with Doval. I think that Ryan Walker is pretty good in leverage situations. You got the Rogers twins. Eric Miller, the lefty, coming out there with some heat. I mean, that's a nice thing to see, but they're young and unproven. So just going into the mindset of a reliever, you being in the dynamic of a bullpen, how long does it take for someone to kind of find their stride and define their role? I would assume that it's a ever evolutionary thing for teams, but how long would you say that you kind of found your situation, your role for the Giants, and how can that translate to this year's bullpen?
Well, I will say that a lot of the names you mentioned they've had those moments, right? Every single one of them has had those moments where you're like, man, this guy's lights out. One for sure that jumps off the page is Eric Miller. Be able to come in and have a lefty, have anybody coming out of the bullpen that throws 100, but from the left side, I mean, that's pretty darn impressive, to be honest with you. And, it's a guy that you would love to see kind of do those things on a little bit more consistent basis. I think when I was a rookie coming up, I kind of bounced around a lot of the roles that these guys are doing. Like occasionally I'd be that setup guy where I'm coming in, if it's a left situation, and I'd get the opportunity to pitch that inning. If it's getting a starting pitcher out of a jam, then I would be that guy to be able to do that. And you got to wear many hats. And I think that's the most difficult thing for these young guys, because in the minor leagues, and it's not just with the Giants organization, it's with every organization, it's almost everything scripted for the most part when you're in the minor leagues. Like, hey, you're going to get the ball today, you're sitting, you got tomorrow, that kind of thing. And you're going to be the first or second guy after the starting pitcher. So you have it kind of laid as to what's going to happen. When you're in the big leagues, it's a do-good league. You got to go out there and get the outs. And Bomel is going to go with his gut. He's going to go with the numbers. But ultimately, if you go out there and you prove that you can get outs, and then you get the ball again and you do it again, and the consistency starts to kick in, I think that's something that's going to be really important for a lot of these guys that define those roles. Now, another one for me, when I was a young guy, I had great veteran leadership. I had a lot of guys in that bullpen that were 35-plus years old. Now, the Giants don't have that. But, I mean, you had a lot of older guys that taught me the way, what I'm supposed to do. What am I going to look for? What are the tendencies in this situation? And I know that you can get that now off the computer and off your analytics team, but I think it's always great to get the perspective from a veteran and the eyeball point of view. And so I think that's where it's going to come down to with a lot of these guys. The Rogers brothers are great. And I think they're awesome. They're great dudes to hang out with, and maybe they step up a little bit more and become more of that leader. I don't know that, how they handle themselves in the bullpen since I'm not in there with them. But, I think that's going to help ease the tension for a lot of these younger guys that are still trying to find a foothold into what they're doing. For when I was a Giant, I mean, Bruce Bochy, he was the captain of running a bullpen. He knew what he wanted. And that's not to say that our roles didn't fluctuate. I mean, he wrote a hot hand better than anybody. And I think everyone understood that. I mean, there would be days where it's Romo and I setting up Casilla, and then it'd be Affelt and Casilla setting up Romo, and I would jump to getting a starting pitcher out of the way. But it was you always got an opportunity to prove yourself. And I think that's what always pushed us. Again, our bullpen was a lot different than this one. We were a little bit more veteran laden. Mm-hmm. And we were around each other an awful lot. But I think when it comes down to it, you have to be ready for the moment. You got to seize that moment. And I think when it comes down to the X's and O's of baseball, your job as a pitcher is really, it's easier said than done now, especially standing back and I get to broadcast it. It's real easy in the booth to watch a game and to broadcast the game. It's like, why is this guy not throwing strikes? But it's ultimately that. Try to control the controllables. Execute the best pitch that you can in that moment. And after that, you got to let it go. But I think when you watch these young kids, the more opportunities they get, the more often you're going to get a better performance. And with the Giants, we touched on it a little bit ago, you're not going to play in blowout games. So the pressure's on almost every single time. It's going to be a 1, 2-run, 3-run game that these guys are pitching in. So I do feel for them as young bucks in there, but at the same time, it's an opportunity that they've been waiting for. And I think some are starting to take advantage of it. You saw with Ryan Walker last year, he got the opportunity and really dominated, and it's carried over into this season. So, I think with the guys, when they get the reps, they either they like the spotlight or they don't. And you find that out pretty quick.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, you said the word there was consistency. That's something that Giants fans and we would like to see a little bit more of. But yeah, the bullpen, just baseball in general, is just a high and low. It's a roller coaster ride for 162. Mm-hmm. You know that more than anybody else. But what I love so much about baseball is that it's all parts of the machine that have to work for it to be successful. I know that's cliche to say, right. But somebody that was really good in putting the pieces to the puzzle, finding the right machine or something like that along the lines was Brian Sabean. And we saw him get inducted into the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame earlier this week, Javi, and you were one of those pieces to the machine that was kind of the last pieces to the puzzle to really get this thing going in 2010, got traded over from the Pirates. So, I mean, just give your thoughts about Brian Sabean and those years. I mean, the mastermind of him putting together those World Series teams, not one, not two, but 3 World Series championships for Brian Sabean. Just give your thoughts on Sabes.
Yeah, I mean, Sabes is a great guy, and that's the reason I wanted to stand up for him and be there for him. He invited me to go, and I was not going to pass up that opportunity because he's a guy that believed in me, and I think that's ultimately what you want in any spot in life. I mean, in athletics, it's different in the sense that everyone knows about the transaction. They can look it up and they can see it. It doesn't happen in a day-to-day job. But that guy stood up for me and said he wanted me to be a part of this ball club, and he made the move, and he made the trade. And he traded 2 guys for me that were prospects at the time for the Giants. But he knew he needed a left-hander to complement Affeldt and some of the other guys down in that bullpen, and he felt like I was that piece. Now, when it comes down to his baseball acumen, I don't think you could just take a peek at his resume and how long he's been in the game. He was with the Giants for 30-plus years and in baseball for over 40. And when you commit your life to doing something like that, when you're passionate about it, and then to finally see it all the way through to a World Series title, and not only that, you get to add 2 more on top of that. I mean, it's just a testament to not only what he was able to do and to see, but the fact that he entrusted his lieutenants, for a lack of a better way to kind of describe it, to kind of handle and carry out their plans and for the overall vision to finally come together. He didn't micromanage, in my opinion. Like I said, he put his people in charge, and he had open discussions and open dialogues. And rest in peace, Dick Tidrow. He was the pitching side of it. He was able to kind of do that as well, and he entrusted every opinion that he had on every pitcher, and they kind of came together. And it was a great brainstorming session and that they would have. And I think that's why you can look at the Giants during that run with some consistency. Now, that's not to say he didn't take some chances that didn't pay off. But ultimately, if there's an opportunity to win, and he sensed it and he could feel it, not only from the locker room, but in the front office and even the fan base, when they were getting excited, you bet he was going to make a move and take a chance. And I think that's what you love to see, which maybe has changed a little bit in today's game. Everyone's a little bit more risk averse. As a GM, the way he did it, he would take the chance to deal with the consequences later. And ultimately that's what helped bring 3 titles to San Francisco. And it's a special bond that we have. I mean, not just me personally, but those 3 teams, to be able to, I can call him right now and he's going to answer and he's going to talk to me like we're best friends. And I think that is something that's kind of lost in today's game. And I will always be appreciative of him and his family for welcoming me in and making me a part of that brotherhood. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, man, just hearing you talk about Sabes and Berman earlier this week and introducing him, I mean, that was just surreal, and it just brought back all the feelings from those years. But, Sabian, man, I mean, the creator of the Core Four, I do have to get your thoughts. We've been talking about Sabian. We've been talking about the Giants. I got to get thoughts on Javier Lopez. I got to get some thoughts on you, man. I mean, because you will be inducted. It's 2 months away, but you'll be inducted into the Giants Wall of Fame on July 13th with the Core Four, with Affel, with Castillo, Sergio, and yourself. I just kind of want you to reflect back on that time. And, this is going to be, you're going to be immortalized in the city of San Francisco. I mean, just think about that. How cool is that for San Francisco Giants fans, San Francisco lore for generations to come? I mean, how cool is that, man?
It's a pinch me moment. I think it'll be, it's always kind of fun when you get to that point and you just don't think about it when you're in that spot. You're just thinking about getting the next out, getting the ball to the next guy, and doing those little things. And so it's great to even there with Brian Sabian, it gave me an opportunity to see Sergio and Jeremy. They were both there as well, and I think that's just a special moment, another bond that we'll always have forever. Because when you look at what we were able to do and wear many different hats, I think that's what people at first glance always see Romo closing out 2012, and that's exactly what he did. But 2010, I was able to step in and have some great appearances and do some things. And Jeremy had a huge relief appearance in 2012 or in 2010 with me in the Phillies, and when Jonathan Sanchez gets kicked out, and then Santiago Casilla goes on a heck of a run in 12 and 10. And then Romo steps up in 2012, and it's like in 14, Jeremy steps back up against the team that drafted him, and it's like everyone had their moment, everyone got their flowers and had their shine, and I think that's what made us so special. Sure, there's egos, and sure, there's all that goes on. We're all type A's when it comes down to that spot, but the fact that we were able to kind of do it, and do it because we loved each other, not just because of self. I don't know about, I shouldn't say it's quite like this, but I'm saying, like, we wanted to do it to be a little selfish, but you want to do it for the team. And I think we want to do it for each other. And that's something that being a part of 6 different bullpens, you don't always experience. And, I always think about, we don't realize in the moment that we're making memories. You just remember that you're having fun. That's all I kind of think about it like that. And now looking back on it, and gosh, it's going to be 10 years since 2014, since the last time we all partied together and had a little excitement. I mean, I'm excited to see Casilla. I've seen him once at the Bruce Bochy retirement, but it's a bond, it's a brotherhood that we're always going to have, and I'm just so thankful that I was able to be a part of that bullpen. And then that's again to Brian Sabian, that all of us had reached free agencies during various times through that 2010 to 2016, and he brought us back. He kept it. He knew the continuity, and he trusted that Bruce Bochy needed us, and Bruce advocated for us. And to have a bullpen stay together that long is just unheard of. It just really is, especially in today's game. It's such a risk-reward profession in the sense of a bullpen. You don't throw strikes, you're not consistent, you're not keeping the job. And to them to entrust us to be together for 6 to 7 seasons, it's just a special thing. And I think once we go on the wall, for me personally, I'll be excited because my kids, I was older when my wife and I had our children, so they're going to realize that I actually did play baseball. That I was actually half decent at doing something. So that'll be cool, and I'm definitely looking forward to the moment. But it's something that when I get out there, I think for my son in particular, because he was just so young, he was about 2 years old by the time that all wrapped up, that he'll actually realize Dad was half decent and did some fun things out there, and so I'm looking forward to that time, and I hope that the fans come out and celebrate with us, because I know we'll enjoy it.
Hey, we got the DVD player. We got YouTube. He can look up the highlights, see the legend of the Core Four and Javi Lopez. Javi, man, I really appreciate you stopping by, man. I really had a fun time talking ball with you, and keep killing it, man, on NBC Sports, man. I love listening to you on the call and all that, and just keep crushing it, man.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks for having me, and go Giants. Let's get it done.
Let's get it done. That was Javi Lopez, and we are live now at 58 Social, formerly known as the Public House, getting you ready for the Giants and the Reds. Great conversation with Javier Lopez. You can go ahead and check that out. That was airing on Rounding Third and King. I do a podcast on KNBR, so you can go ahead and check that out on the podcast page. Javi Lopez, great conversation with the lefty, 3-time World Series champion, just knowledgeable about the game of baseball. So on the other side, we're going to take a quick break. We are on YouTube and on Twitch. We are live at 58 Social, getting you ready for the Giants and the Reds Game 2. I'll get you the lineup. Mason Black on the hill for the Giants, going up against the lefty, another lefty for the Reds, Nick Lodolo. So we will talk about that matchup on the other side. We'll give you a key player of the week. Definitely, I'll give you a little tease. It's not on the offense, so we'll do that on the other side. You're listening to the Giants warm-up show on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Welcome to Oracle Park in Dallas.
To pitch, a swing, ground ball towards second. Moving to his left, Thairo Estrada will field it, and from the edge of the grass, he'll throw out back at first. Side retired, and for Kyle Harrison, 7 shutout innings tonight in his first career start at Coors Field.
All right, welcome back to the Giants warm-up show. We are live at 58 Social, formerly known as the Public House. Came in with the highlight of Kyle Harrison. You're probably wondering, well, why are we rejoining with Kyle Harrison? Asked Raf to dial that up because he is the key player of the week, sponsored by Key Point Credit Union, Credit Generation or Next Generation Neighborhood Banking. Kyle Harrison, again, one of the bright shining stars for the San Francisco Giants in that rotation, and that is where we are going with the player of the week. Harrison pitched well in his first time ever at Fenway. He got the first Giants win. He did not get the win, but the Giants won 2 of the 3 games that on the road trip. 2 of them were started by Kyle Harrison. So in Fenway, he went 5 innings, gave up 3 hits, 7 Ks. Did have a lot of walks in that one, but followed up that performance by being the stopper in Colorado, where they were just coming off of that series in Philadelphia, the wraparound series, and they needed a stop. They needed some innings out of their starters, and that's what Kyle Harrison did there, where he tossed 7 shutout innings, shutout ball in Colorado. Really impressive for the young guy out of De La Salle. So we are live at 58 Social. At formerly known as the Public House, the backdrop of where I am, if you're watching on YouTube and on Twitch, it just became a photo booth. We had Ryan in the 408, Ryan in San Jose stopped by. He was taking pictures, and it's just a good time, good vibes out here for the San Francisco Giants. And we hope that we can just channel this energy and get a win today, because you see what is lying ahead for the San Francisco Giants. They got Big Blue coming in on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday for a 3-game series. The Dodgers and the Giants, make sure to be out here and support the orange and black, because that is going to be a huge, critical measuring stick series. But also, I mean, we know how good the Dodgers are, but the Giants are lining up some pretty good starting pitchers as well. Again, the highlight being Kyle Harrison. Kyle Harrison pitches tomorrow, so he will not be in the Giants and Dodgers series. So if you are out celebrating Mother's Day, bring the moms out to the ballpark and watch Kyle Harrison deal against the Cincinnati Reds. But today we have Mason Black, who is on the mound for the San Francisco Giants. He will be going up against Nick Lodolo, the lefty. He has 37 strikeouts on the season. Five starts into the year. He didn't start the year with the Reds in the rotation. He had to ramp up a little bit, but Nick Lodolo, he is a strikeout pitcher, and the Giants are going to have to battle and get that offense going, because that is the big thing with this Giants team, is that they haven't been able to manufacture runs. They haven't been able to manufacture offense consistently throughout the entirety of 2024. But more recently, in the past 2 weeks, actually the past 15 games, Giants have only scored 43 runs in 15 games. That is the second worst total in Major League Baseball, and that gives them a 2.87 runs per game. So you gotta score more runs than that. Gotta score more runs than that. And is that going to be in the form of Thairo Estrada, who is responsible for the solo home run to kind of get the Giants back into it, where Logan Webb had a rough first inning. Ellie De La Cruz, that speed was on full display in that first inning, but Thairo Estrada came back, battled in the count, and hit a home run to left field. So he will be leading off. And I'm going to give you the Giants lineup. So Thairo Estrada leading off today. I don't know when the last time, Raph, go ahead and look that up. I don't know when the last time it was for Thairo Estrada to lead off for the San Francisco Giants. I don't believe that it's happened this year, possibly last year, because he was a little bit of a catalyst to where when he got on base, he did have the speed. He could wreak some havoc on the base path. So ideally, I would like him at the 2, and Jung-Hoo Lee, who is battling a foot contusion, he will be back at some point. It was expected that he could be available today, but sounds like tomorrow with the lefty on the mound today, sounds like Jung-Hoo Lee will be in the lineup tomorrow. We'll have to wait and see on that. But Thairo Estrada is batting leadoff today at second base. You have Lamont Wade Jr. at first, batting second. I like that combination very much because Lamont Wade Jr. always knows how to get on base. You have Patrick Bailey, who is back from the injured list. That is huge, not only for the Giants offense, because last homestand, guy was hitting walk-off homers and splash hits into the bay that don't even hit the water. I mean, he was really impressive before he landed on the concussion protocol. But Patrick Bailey is back in the 3-hole today behind the dish. You have Wilmer Flores, who is just struggling, but we would like to see what he can do in that cleanup role. He is batting 4th at DH. Elliot Ramos, who he had just absolute rockets off of his bat yesterday, 108 and 105 for his hits yesterday. And he looks comfortable at the plate. He looks determined at the plate. And it's going to be a really interesting scenario where we see what Elliot Ramos can produce, because again, he was having a good year in Sacramento, but he didn't force the Giants' hand in any way. It was situational in that everyone that lands on the IL. I mean, he was called up because Jorge Soler was put on the injured list with his right shoulder. So Elliot Ramos trying to make the best of his situation right now. In right field, he is batting 5th. Got Matt Chapman batting 6th at the hot corner. Then you have Michael Conforto batting 7th in left field. All right, guys, I'll see you later. Enjoy the game. Michael Conforto batting 7th in left field. You have Casey Schmidt, who is going to be batting 8th at shortstop, and then you have Tyler Fitzgerald, who's batting 9th in center field. So I'll run through that real quick. Batting leadoff, Thairo Estrada at second base, Wade, Patrick Bailey, Flores, Ramos, Chapman, Conforto, Schmidt, and Tyler Fitzgerald. That is your Giants starting lineup. But really quick, before we get out with Giants pregame, the official pregame, we're going to be speaking with Dave Fleming, get his thoughts on the Giants offense and the pitching matchup today, because Mason Black, who is starting for the first time in front of the Giants home crowd. I wonder if this start at home, his new home of Oracle Park, I wonder if this one is a little bit dialed back in comparison to his first official start, because it's your first start, but that was kind of like a home start for Mason Black, who is from the area and had over 200 people in attendance in support of the youngster in Philadelphia. So I wonder if the adrenaline may be, I mean, you kind of look at this start for Mason Black, and maybe it's not a big deal because how he presented himself in Philadelphia, and just the ice in the veins of a lot of these Giants young pitchers right now. You love to see that. But let's go ahead and get on out to the standings update, sponsored by the Alameda County Probation Department. Visit joinacpd.org today for a career that matters. Now, the Giants have had a rough go of it in recent weeks, all season long. I mean, they are struggling, and they are currently sitting 6 games below 500. They're trying to climb back up out of that hole, and better to do it in May than try to make all that up in the summer months. But right now, the Giants find themselves 4th in the NL West. At the top of the division, it's no surprise, it's the Los Angeles Dodgers at 26 and 14, and they lost yesterday against the San Diego Padres. So the Padres, they're actually playing later today. Padres look to win another series. I believe they won their first series against the Padres a couple of weeks ago. So or the Dodgers. So the Padres look to clinch that series today as well, playing against the Dodgers. Padres are 21-20. They are in second place in the division. You have the Arizona Diamondbacks at 18-21. Giants right there, right behind them, 1 game back of the, or 1.5 games back of the Diamondbacks at 17-23. Then you have the Colorado Rockies, who the Giants just saw, weren't able to sweep them, but they did get 2 out of 3. Colorado Rockies 10-28, and that is your standings update brought to you by Alameda County Probation Department. Today you have the Giants and the Reds. Giants look to try to get some runs, and when they score 5 or more runs, Giants are undefeated. They are the only team undefeated when they score 5 or more runs. That is telling of this pitching staff, and especially being at home, the runs are going to be at a premium. So everybody needs to try to generate some offense for the youngster who is making his debut at home for the San Francisco Giants, Mason Black. So the Giants and the Reds are coming up here shortly. Giants are trying to right the ship and get things going in the right direction, because the Dodgers are coming into town on Monday. You want to have some confidence. That's something that that you look at the Giants, and I was asking earlier what your name or what your word of the day is, or what your word for the San Francisco Giants team is in 2024, and I think it was Lloyd who called in and said that it was uninspired. There was just uninspired ABs. So you hope that the Giants can string together some solid at-bats, get some runs across, support their youngster. But with Logan Webb going deep yesterday, the bullpen is a full go. So if he can go 4 innings, 5 innings, I know in his first start, he only pitched 71 pitches ever in AAA, and then they ramped him up to 84. And when you go back and look at that start for Mason Black in Philadelphia, you have to factor in who he was pitching against. He looked pretty good against Real Muto and Bryce Harper. Got them to strike out in their first appearance, but Bryce Harper did make him pay later on in the game in that 5th inning 3-run shot. So you hope to limit those, but keep it close, and this offense just needs to generate runs. Again, 5 runs or more. When the Giants do that, they are undefeated, the only team in Major League Baseball. So we have the Giants and the Reds coming up next with Mason Black on the mound. You have Ellie De La Cruz, who is going to just wreak havoc on the base paths. That is a huge thing for Patrick Bailey to keep an eye on and maybe shut that down. That's a huge shot to the arm for the San Francisco Giants. So coming up next, the Giants and the Reds on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader.